Connect.
Welcome to All Beings Considered with Dr. Crystal, Heath, EVM, and Skytrack Morgan. The doctor's in the house. How you doing, Dr. Crystal Heath?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I got, I'm alive. I'm not burnt to a crisp. RFK Jr. and Joe Rogan seem to have. I could go to sleep. They've got the wheel. Joe Rogan and RFK Jr. have the wheel, and I am happy to just be in the passenger seat.
Wow. Well, that's makes you a simp of some sort, I guess.
Not a simp. You told me that I should relax and stop being so fear-driven and just
relax. No.
I
think, again, you misunderstood what I said.
Dang it, I do that.
Replace fear with anger. Anytime you say, I'm afraid that, you should say, I'm angry that. I think it's a more motivating emotion than fear.
I'm with it. Anger could be more motivating than fear. I get that. But when we have such capable individuals at the helm, do I really need to be afraid or angry? I mean, they seem to have it under control. Looks like, polio's coming back and mRNA is out. I'm really excited to see where this is all headed. And I can just let it go. I can just ride. Jesus, take the wheel is now RFK Jr. Take the wheel. Joe Rogan, take the wheel. I need to make a t-shirt. Joe Rogan, take the wheel.
White men love a strong leader. They just want to follow orders. It makes it so much easier, right?
Yeah, I'm just along for the ride at this point. You know what? I'm turning over a new leaf, doctor. I was fighting the man. I didn't want to follow these guys, and now I'm not following. I realize that they've got the wheel, and I just need to chill out. It must be so comforting to be. I'm gonna try.
All right, we got a show packed with really useful information.
Yes.
Maddie Krasno is going to be on this show. Krista Magnifico is going to be on our show. So let's get to it.
Krista Magnifico.
Let's show what Joe Rogan was talking about today.
All right, let's do it. I'll show you right now what Joe Rogan was talking about today. Here he is.
To women's bodies during the time where these children are developing. It's contributing to a bunch of different factors that are really dangerous to the endocrine system. And Cabot suggests that most of the microplastics in the body are ingested through food, particularly meat, because commercial meat production tends to concentrate plastics in the food chain. Terrific. Yeah, there's no escape. What has been the reaction to your book?
All right, so there's no escape, Crystal. You see, I'm just letting Joe Rogan tell it like it is. There's no escape. There's no alternative. You have to eat animals, just like Joe Rogan says. Life eats life. There's no other option to get protein. So you're just going to have to deal with microplastics.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because the preamble to this was how he had changed his life to get rid of these microplastics in his life. Like he had his guests now drink from metal cups and all of this. And then it got to the meat and he's like, well, I guess there's nothing we can do.
There's just nothing we can do. That's also must be a comforting thing. I'd wager. I should be more like that.
I think that's where a lot of people get to, is when it's just like seems overwhelming. You're just like, well, terrific. It's everywhere. Like,
it's really funny because like I don't eat meat and I don't eat animal protein. So I think because of I think I'm lower. I'm lower on the microplastic scale. I'm getting fewer of the microplastics. But then I go outside and I realize that it's in your clothes, it's in your spatula, it's in your frying pan, it's all over. And then I go, oh, you can't escape. But I still try to buy frying pans that don't have Teflon in anymore. I'm trying to maybe I try to buy clothing that is linen and not microplastic.
Interesting.
Yeah, if we all walked around wearing linen, we wouldn't have all of this microplastic inside of us. A lot of it's coming through our clothes, but like Joe said, most of it's coming through our food. But tofu still has microplastics, and so does a lot of other
tofu wrapped in plastic. Yeah, it's not good. So hopefully we can redirect public funds away from microplastic based clothing and food and towards animal-free and microplastics-free forms of food. I think that's what people want,
Do you
and
think
they
it's
should get that.
I think you're right. We should provide them with more choices. I mean, we have all this money going to animal flesh. I mean, we should be able to, figure a different way out, different alternative proteins. You're always pushing the ferment. What do you call it? The precision fermentation.
Yeah.
What do you think that is about people like Joe Rogan, because he's had people on streams, he's had people on his show that he's agreed that, yeah, clearly you're getting enough protein. You seem like you're doing all right. He understands this, and yet he just throws up his hands and says, "Oopsie daisy, I guess I'm just going to have microplastics in me."
I don't know if that's what his final conclusion was. It was just a gut reaction that he had there. But we'll see if he thinks about it a little bit more. But honestly, like I watched the Joe Rogan interviews with the vegans. They do a good job sometimes, but I go about it in such a different way. I wonder what his reaction would be to the way that I approach it. It was like, I don't care if you hunt animals, great. But how do we make policy that's going to feed the world? Because you hunting is not going to feed the world, and we're not going to be able to feed the world if everybody adopts your strategy of protein consumption. So let's figure this out together. What does a good, just food system look like, and how can we develop it? I don't care if somebody wants to farm animals on a small scale, great. But that's not going to feed 10 billion people. So
I mean, I do care. I just feel like it's a different conversation.
I do
right?
care, but yeah, I also I hate the way most people raise their children. I hate the way people treat each other on a daily basis. But I realize I can't affect that, but I can advocate for policy that hopefully makes things better.
Okay, I heard that. I understand that completely. I'm talking with an antinatalist on Saturday on my channel, and I
Oh wow.
maybe you'll enjoy the show.
Do you think, based on what I said, that I'm an antinatalist?
No, I know you're not
Okay.
an antinatalist, but I think that a lot of antinatalists become that way because they just hate the way people are raised these days. I think there's a lot of that kind of curmudgeon.
Always have been. I think it's really sad. Very few children get the ability to grow up in an environment where they're treated well and respected as individuals and given everything that they need to flourish. And it's really sad.
Perhaps that's preparing them for the rest of their lives. I mean, it seems like that's just a hard thing to get at every stage of your life, being respected or encouraged, or even the random compliment from time to time seems few and far between. At least as I saw this meme once where women were like, it was like women saying, when a man compliments you and he looks like this, it's like, "Ugh," and then when a man compliments and he looks like this, it's like, yay. And then the dudes were like, wait, you guys are out here getting complimented?
Yeah, no, I don't trust any compliments from anybody. And I've seen women, there's the honeypots who do wield that and just butter men up in order to like get what they want from them and stuff. And you don't trust people who like love bomb you and
sure, but in
blow
the
smoke
workplace,
up your ass and all of this stuff. Don't do it.
In the workplace, when you do have authority figures, it is nice to have someone give you an attaboy from time to time. It does make someone want to show up for work again and do it, and to deal with some of the challenges at work. It makes it easier to kind of bear those if we get a little bit of a carrot and stick situation. I think there's lots of evidence of this, and maybe since there are far more sticks than carrots in life, people are far more likely to tell you how much you suck or don't matter or why your work isn't good enough. But there are fewer people who are ever going to be like, yeah, let's go, good job, let's go team. Like there's more sticks than carrots. So maybe by treating children that way, you prepare them for a life of reality. That's just the way it is,
No, I think that's pretty mean. Because there are children who I know, like Michelle Obama is the classic example of somebody who grew up with the perfect parents and had the perfect upbringing. Although,
Really?
she was a Black woman, and that's tough, but she was given good role models and good parents, and what she created out of that. And as a result, her kids are awesome. And I think, like, read her book, Becoming, or whatever it's called. Like, amazing.
Okay.
And that's, I think, just shows, like, when you have good parents and a good environment growing up, even though you are a person who is of a marginalized group, it can really benefit you in so many ways. And I think it's so tragic when, and then there are people who, of course, are abused and not given what they need and end up in a life of crime and create this cycle of violence where there's the children of those people end up entering the cycle of violence. Nobody's, fulfilling their life.
Totally.
They're not, becoming what they could possibly be if they were given more advantages.
Okay,
and I
but
think our policies have a lot to do with that. If every child was given, instead of us giving billion-dollar corporations millions of dollars, every child was given a fund to ensure that their education, healthcare, their needs were met, a savings account that they could only draw a certain amount from. And it was equal across all kids. All kids were given an equal chance at life. We would be so much better off, at least financially. And then we can have social systems in place to make sure that kids get the education that they need and the care and food and all of that stuff. If that happened, I think we would be far better off.
maybe you're
So,
right. I just the way the status quo is now in this world where you then enter the workforce and you're constantly just not getting that encouragement ever, and then you're like, I mean, you remember how you were treated growing up, and you had all these opportunities, and life was so good, and people like gave you attaboys, and then you grow up, and it's just, you need to be prepared for that, I think, because you see people
but I
enter the
think
workforce, and it's just they get killed.
like nobody gives me props at my work, but I'm like, at the end of the day, it's like, yes, I spayed and neutered that many animals, and like we got it done, and everybody's safe. And yes, I got that media story, I got that thing published, I
Yeah,
got,
but people tell
you
you
know,
all the time. I hear people. I've watched people shower you with compliments about how you're the only one doing this. You're the only one bringing the ventilation shutdown to the fore. We have Ben Williamson who was gushing about how wonderful you are. We have this all the time, people, and you need that to keep going, especially in the activist circles. People need that reinforcement because you're not getting it from chat. You're not getting it from. I get it from Jackie Boyle, but you're not getting it from people who are like the randoms in the street doing outreach. You're not going to get any kudos from them. We're up against. Not going to get from the powers that be. So we have to give it to each other. We have to prop each other up. And I don't know. It's a tough road.
I don't know.
But
I just like, I never completely trust anybody who like showers compliments, because I always feel like it's manipulative somehow. So that's why like I just am not motivated by people gushing. I'm like, okay, what do you want from me? Like, why are you're buttering up for what now? Like, you know what I mean? So
just
that's
trying to keep you going, trying to give you a good job, keep going. That's usually what I leave in comments. If I go into someone's stream and they're doing some activist work, I know that they're getting so much negativity, and I'll just put, great work, keep going. And that's all somebody needs sometimes. I don't need to gush and like shower somebody. Just, hey, good job, keep going. And it makes it's some solidarity there, some camaraderie, brothers in arms or something, that we're out there doing this together and struggling together. I just wanted to
everybody in the chat, Sky needs compliments, and just so you know, I don't need compliments. So
yeah, sure, that's it.
where
I just wanted to play this one more time because I like.
There's no escape. What has been
There's no escape. There's no escape from eating animals and getting too much microplastics, says Joe Rogan. All right, so here's the next Joe Rogan clip we were watching today. Well, this is also about agriculture.
And then there's
for some reason, it's way quieter.
Pesticides. Have you ever read Dissolving Illusions? Suzanne Humphreys wrote this book about, and one of the aspects of the book is about DDT and the ubiquitous use of DDT, and how so many people in rural communities were coming down with, in air quotes, polio, paralytic polio, that was directly correlated to the use of DDT. Like the same areas where people, and it wasn't just human beings that were getting this polio, but it was also cows, horses, and dogs. They were getting paralyzed as well, which it doesn't cross species. Human-derived polio does not cross species. It's a very dark story. And you want to hear something crazy? What percentage of polio do you think is asymptomatic?
I've never heard that there's polio that's asymptomatic.
95 to 99%. 95 to 99% of
What do you think about
actual
that?
polio is asymptomatic. So what they were calling polio was most likely DDT poisoning.
Wow.
That was sprayed everywhere. That was sprayed everywhere for gypsy moths and all sorts of different pests. They didn't know. And then
Did they not know? Because
So, fun fact, polio epidemics became widespread before the use of DDT. Major polio outbreaks were reported in Europe and the US as early as 1890s. The first major US polio epidemic was in 1916, decades before DDT was widely used in the 1940s.
so yeah, but I mean, animals don't get polio. They don't get the same.
But they
strand
get
of
all
polio.
sorts of paralytic diseases in livestock that could have been caused by a lot of things, and rabies, botulism. They could have been sickened by the DDT, like other enteroviruses. So, like, I would not want to know what diagnostics were done on these animals that died, supposedly.
Well, they think it. I mean, Joe here is suggesting that it's the DDT, and I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of nasty things about DDT. Joni Mitchell sang a
Yeah.
song about DDT. Like Cesar Chavez talked about how
Silent
DDT.
Spring, Rachel Carson's book.
Mhm.
And it's interesting reading Merchants of Doubt. Now, there was this whole corporate backlash against Rachel Carson condemning DDT, saying, like, how many lives did Rachel Carson cost because people were now dying of these mosquito-borne illnesses because they didn't have DDT to kill them. So I thought that was really interesting. And there was all these ads about how safe DDT is, like children eating.
I
and
saw
then
the guy
they,
one of the
spray 'em.
guys fighting for DDT had his little girl. She must have been 6 or 7. Drink DDT, and then
Oh my
he took a
gosh.
drink of DDT, just drinking it, saying it's perfectly harmless, but doesn't seem to have been harmless.
It's interesting, just like microplastics, DDT accumulates, bioaccumulates. So very similar. So
Like glyphosate and a lot of the stuff that we put in our bodies, they accumulate, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I wonder. DDT is, I think, illegal still in the United States, but it's legal in other parts of the world. And I read once a while back that we were actually getting more DDT after us making it illegal because so much more fruit and stuff was imported afterwards, just because we were importing more anyway. And so when DDT was outlawed and it became slightly more expensive to grow fruit in the United States, we imported more of it from someplace else, and that had DDT.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like passing laws about putting plastic bags, like California, they passed the anti-plastic bag thing. And what do? They just make thicker plastic bags and sell them as reusable. And now actually
Yeah.
more plastic bag waste. There's been a
This is
heavier
really
amount of plastic
interesting.
bags. Yeah, it's just
So
like,
yeah, I mean, the vaccine for polio was introduced in 1955. By 1961, polio cases fell by over 90%. DDT use continued during this drop. So DDT, when was it banned? DDT use persisted into the 1970s in many parts of the world. So yeah.
So what do you think? What's your takeaway from the Joe Rogan thing, though? I mean, do you think that DDT caused these polio-like symptoms and polio wasn't what people were seeing?
Yes, 100%.
You agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with him 100% based on everything that I said previously. No, I'm joking. I just like, obviously, like I said, the vaccine was introduced in 1955. The first major U.S. polio epidemic was 1916, decades before DDT was widely used, which started in the 1940s. If DDT caused polio, we wouldn't see large polio epidemics before its invention and use. And
so you think that it's just this is just more of this anti-vax stuff, that these guys are just why is Joe saying this stuff about
I think
DDT?
there's a lot of people who spread just like in the veterinary profession. There's a lot of misinformation about certain things spread in the veterinary profession because it's like, oh, it's what's it called? The bias where a confirmation bias, that sort of thing. It's like it plays into like whatever your narrative is. And if the group of people you surround yourself with are all repeating this and nobody knows how to question it, it gets perpetuated. And we have to be careful of that with ourselves, like not to play into this. And like if there's evidence that we aren't looking at, hopefully the chat will let us know and hold us to a high standard of conduct.
A high standard of conduct. And if you think that DDT was the cause of the polio epidemic, then I guess that's it. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because this morning, after all this RFK Jr. stuff, I've been thinking a lot about it. There was this joke on the Mark Maron, his new stand-up, where he said, people are saying stuff like they didn't say before. Like it's what's old is new. They're bringing back a bunch of stuff. They're saying, wow, you've got polio.
Yeah.
It's the old trends are becoming popular again. Oh, you've got polio. You're too bad your kid's got polio. It's stuff we haven't heard in ages. And
yeah. I mean, we could talk about the RFK thing. So RFK announced terminating $500 million worth of contracts at the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA, to develop new mRNA vaccines, including those targeting H5N1 bird flu.
Ones that were already in development. That's the thing. It's like we've already thrown a bunch of money at this, and the farmers are saying they want vaccines. But he's saying no more.
Which, corporate interests will always win, but I think right now the broiler industry is more powerful than the egg industry. And the broiler industry obviously doesn't want vaccines because they don't want to lose export markets, even though the egg industry is like, come on, give us vaccines. Unless the countries that we export to change their stance on that, we're not going to see vaccines for poultry. But it is concerning, like, as this H5N1 outbreak happens, if there is a human to human spread of H5N1, mRNA vaccines are the fastest way to develop new vaccines for this virus. And if we're taking that off the table, that's not great. So
right. So I mean, it's funny because we've killed now, I think it's something close to 200 million birds now, egg-laying hens, because of bird flu. There's 7% of workers seem to have the antibodies, right? RFK Jr. even himself has said these are mutant factories. We're basically giving the virus a place to mutate and spread. And all the evidence that we've seen shows that this could take a turn for the worst. And it angers me, Crystal.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It angers me because I am not someone, because I think I'm pretty healthy. I don't eat eggs. I'm not around animals, so I'm probably going to be all right. But no, BS. It's not going to be all right if it goes the wrong way, which is opt to do. Then we are going to see person-to-person transmission. We're going to see shutdowns of the economy and all this other stuff again. I don't want to go back to another pandemic,
And RFK says the problem with these mRNA vaccines is they don't actually, they don't cause sterilizing immunity. They don't stop the spread of the disease. But our history is filled with very successful vaccines that don't prevent infection, like the tetanus vaccine doesn't prevent infection at all, but it completely prevents the tetanus becoming, paralyzed with tetanus.
Mhm.
The Salk vaccine inactivated polio. It doesn't prevent polio infection. The Sabin live attenuated polio vaccine is a polio virus infection, yet both of these vaccines, freed entire generations from growing up in iron lungs.
Yes, iron lungs are back in. We're gonna have iron lungs now. Luckily, your Cybertruck has a trailer hitch, a trailer hitch, and you can just drag the iron lung behind your Cybertruck, and you can still go out. We're gonna have kids in iron lungs again. But there's a bunch of vaccines like this. There's meningitis and chickenpox.
Well, now
and
we
HPV.
have ventilators. We don't have iron lungs.
Okay.
It's not.
Maybe I guess we
Like
won't have
Richard
iron.
Reeve. Remember Richard Reeve, who would always go around, he's paralyzed, but he, had the ventilator that he'd go around with everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve had a ventilator on.
Christopher, yeah. Is that what I said? Did I say something else?
You said Richard, but that's okay. You
I
probably
think
got
that's the
Richard
serial
Donner
killer,
was
right?
the
Oh, okay.
Richard Donner was the director of Superman, and Christopher Reeve was Superman. Maybe that's what it was. Hey,
no, the truth is, I do not know my celebrities at all, and I'm playing outside of my realm here,
well,
trying to bring up pop culture. So
he had a ventilator, and he had to hold his breath while he had to breathe and then wait for it to. It was almost like a Darth Vader effect. He would like, and then he would talk, and then it would breathe again for him. It was disconcerting sometimes. Okay, so yeah, we could see that. And H5N1 is also a respiratory disease. In fact, RFK Jr. talked mostly about respiratory diseases I think he talked exclusively about respiratory diseases when he was talking about mRNA. Yeah. But I guess we'll all find out. We're all along for the ride. I'm just sitting in the passenger seat, letting RFK Jr.'s world. I'm living in the world of RFK Jr. It's not my world. There's a fire in California, shockingly. The Santa Barbara, they're calling it the Gifford Fire. It's around Santa Barbara. It's burning and burning and burning. 100 square miles of coastal Santa Barbara have already burned. It's got, right now, it looks like we're talking about 2,000. How many acres? It's the biggest fire now in history in the area.
Oh, really?
And, yeah.
Wow. Pull up my
Ranchers
watch
are evacuating their. Yeah, maybe you're gonna have to get the watch app again. Luckily, it's far enough away from you and even farther away from me. But one of the things that were particularly kind of interesting about this is
the Gifford Fire is 83,932 acres, according to this.
Yeah, 100 square miles is what I got on AP, and so. 260 square kilometers of coastal Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. It's known as the Cal Fire. All right, but what's a little bit interesting about this one, unlike what normally is the case in California, where you see a bunch of new "Make Polio Great Again." You want to see "Make Polio Great Again" T-shirt? Sure, I'll make you a T-shirt that says "Make Polio Great Again." Let me take a note with my pen to annoy Crystal. Because I don't do take notes on a phone. All right, so the Gifford Fire, though, is interesting in that it's not burning a bunch of houses, really. It's burning mostly livestock. Here's a solo cow out there, all of them burned. They're feeding the cow. They're feeding their cows and importing food right now from other areas because everything has been burned. These cows are getting hungry. They haven't eaten for a couple days. You see them run over and eat the hay. When you hear the ranchers talk about it, they act very sad. They say it's very sad, all of the animals who are dying of thirst and being caught in firestorms. Some are being burned alive. Many of them just can't get to water and die.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, there's nothing out there. It's kind of insane. All right, so this is the largest blaze of the year. I've heard it the largest in this area, so I don't know. We're getting a lot of different reports. It's only been burning for a couple days, and it is wildly out of control. I think it's like 5% contained. Here's a rancher on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Instagram talking about it.
So it's a loss. We'll start over. So we're going to ship them off to the valley and start up next year.
Yeah, and so they'll just stay there.
Yeah.
Until next season and all this stuff comes back.
Yeah, he's been real fortunate because he's had 5 other ranchers offer their property to keep the cows. Keep the cows for the herd, and the rest will sell.
Yeah, this has to be a risk every season. You don't know when it's going to hit. This year it was just the time storm, for this one.
The perfect storm twice. It hit a month ago, and then it hit. Took exactly half, and then this one came back through and took everything. So,
do you know how many he's lost?
We saw the 5 here on the burned up on the road on Saturday, and we haven't been into the river to see the rest. We're gonna get these out of here and see what's down there. So
yeah, it's amazing when you look around that anything's able to survive, but they find their little spots. I guess
they did. And it's just they got caught in a you can see they got caught in a firestorm, and 2 were actually tangled in the barbed wire, and a cow and a calf. I guess this no air. They died, and the cow over here burned up, so we probably got to put her down. So it's super sad. It's just so hard to see. So,
what do you think? Super sad, really hard to see, Crystal. They seem hurt by this. What do you think?
I think so. They don't want to see cows suffer. I mean, as far as they are concerned, what they think about is they feed the cows, they create healthy cows. The cows are out there grazing on the grass. And then they're one day shipped to slaughter, and it's one bad day, lights out. Here's like multiple bad days, starving, burning to death. That's not what they envision. But also, we constantly hear about how cows are so necessary and the solution to California's wildfires. That's one thing. But we know also that that's not true, because cows spread other very flammable grasses. They eat down the fire prevention grasses and plants, and they spread things like cheatgrass and red brome that are invasive and perpetuate more wildfires. So I wonder if that happened here.
I mean, I know when settlers came out this way, the pioneers, they would collect the cow dung and burn it in fire. So, I mean, it's flammable. There's some IBUs there. So this idea that cows prevent wildfires, I just don't see. Is that just propaganda? Just something they made up? Why do they even say stuff like that?
Because it makes sense. Because you're like, oh, the cows are chewing the excess grasses. So, but then
so
just like anything, it's just like Joe Rogan saying like DDT was the real cause of polio. It makes sense if you don't like really investigate it.
If you don't ask a question, employ no critical thinking. It's funny, I used to go hiking when I lived in the San Francisco Bay. I used to go hiking in some PG&E, some of the power company up there. They own a bunch of land, and you can use it to go hiking. And when you would go, you would encounter animals up there like goats and cows, and they were there to eat the star thistle and some other stuff out there that's flammable and invasive, and goats and cows will eat it. So they let them up there to graze, and they eat some of that stuff that's flammable. But I don't think that this is that. It's like they actually move the animals there for fire prevention. And they use that example and are like, all the cows are fire preventers, actually, if you look at it with your eye. You know what I mean? It's like, from a certain point of view, if they're used properly.
And it's just like, hey, women voicing concerns about a man's behavior, aren't we infantilizing women if they can't handle things themselves? Like, you hear that sort of thing. Like, it kind of makes sense if you don't look at it from the perspective of the women or the cows, or the wildlife and the environment. If you ask 0 questions, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. San Francisco makes sense now. I went to college up in the Berkeley area because I went to Berkeley. It's a fancy school. But I only lived up there for college. It was great. I loved it. I went hiking up there. It was good times. All right. So the last thing I just want to show really quickly was one more quick video about this. I know it's small, but hopefully people can still see it. All right, this is just, you can see cows buried in mud too, because when there's fire and then the water comes, so they're trying to put out the fires and the water from the plains bury the cows in mud. And these men have to go out there and dig out the cows. He's buried, this poor cow is a Swiss Alp cow, buried up to her neck in mud because of this in Santa Barbara. So it's interesting. So the reason why I thought that was kind of interesting is only because they talk about animals being trapped in the barbed wire and being burned alive. The other ones being trapped in the river. They go down river. They try to follow the water instinctively, trying to get away from the fire. And a lot of those, they lose oxygen and they die. And some drown, of course. But then there's also the problem of the cows literally being buried in the mud from fire putter-outers, and cows are just not having it. They're not having a good day with this. I guess you're right. Multiple bad days, but
if you're like, well, it's in California, screw California, Gavin Newsom and his stupid wildfire policies. Well, you're paying for this. Well, if you don't live in California, you're paying for this. These producers will be bailed out through the USDA ELAP program, the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program. So
yeah, that's really important, isn't it, Crystal? Like these people out there, they'll say, well, that's in California, screw them, we hate California or whatever. You hear that a lot, especially people, especially when California is having fires, whatever. But it's like you're going to pay for that. This isn't going to be through FEMA or something. This is all coming from the USDA, and I'm on your side. We shouldn't be having cows in places that burn easily. Sure, great. Let's stop doing it this way. But you're going to be paying for it, and their risky business practices are covered by you. They win either way. The rich get rich again. Maybe they should try burning off all the underbrush. There's no these are not like underbrush. This is not underbrush situation. That's not what's burning here. That's not the situation in this case. Underbrush is usually what happens in the forest. We have these things called chaparral vegetation that kind of look dead and gray during the summer months, and they get real dry, and then in the spring they turn green again. That's just the natural way our system works in California, just our flora and fauna. That's how it works. But you couldn't just burn off the underbrush in this situation. Yeah, the insurance is paid for by you guys. That's USDA. You're lucky. You get to pay for it all. What's the alternative, though, Crystal?
We could instead support animal-free methods of food production and give everybody access to delicious, nutritious animal-free meals instead of bailing out millionaires like these cattle farmers all the time for their risky business model. I think that's the answer.
I think that's true. I think that's pretty spot on. All right. So while we're worried about fires over here, something's going on in the Far East. Cambodia and Thailand, they are saber rattling, and they're afraid they're going to pop off with war again. But something else is going on over there too, Crystal. What's going on there?
Yeah, Cambodia had confirmed its 15th case of human H5N1 in 2025. That brings this year's total to 15 cases and 7 deaths, which is a case fatality rate of 46.6%. Since 2005, 87 cases or 50 deaths have occurred, which is a case fatality rate of 57.5. Of course, those case fatality rates are a little overestimations because
why?
We don't test everybody. So we only are testing the ones who get sick and are in the hospital. So like we've seen 7% of dairy workers are seropositive for H5N1, but they're not dying. No, very few deaths in the United States from this. So, but it's still very concerning.
It is concerning because we're talking about 15 cases now in Cambodia. 7 deaths 46.6% of the cases that we
Yeah.
know. So I know that those numbers are inflated, but when you hear a thing like 46% death rate, and we know that COVID
And it's a
was
different strain than what we're dealing with here and all of the things too.
it's still bird flu though. It's still
Still H5N1. Yeah.
5N1, and it's killed 46% of the people who got it in Cambodia. So when people think that I'm fear mongering, when I'm a little bit angry at RFK Jr. for discontinuing mRNA, I look at something like this and I think 46% seems high, especially since COVID was less than 1%, and it's got everything down. So
Yeah. But at the same time, like, should we be funding these pharmaceutical companies who then get to sell their vaccine and then we don't get a cut of those profits? Like, it's just a messed up system that we have, kind of.
yeah, I couldn't
And
agree with you
then
more. We should get the money back, right? We should at least get our investment back, don't you agree? We should at least get the money back that we invested.
Absolutely.
I don't like the idea that we just make these jerks rich, especially when those same jerks of big pharma, their largest customers is animal-based protein production. And so it's just like this circle jerk with these guys. And we're the ones left holding the bag every time. And when we get sick, 46% of us die. And I mean, I know I'm exaggerating here, but according to this, 46, if we go with this number, 46% of people die. Whose fault is it? I think we're going to want to ask, is it all of our faults?
Well, I think we want to do what we can to protect our nation's food security, national security, public health. So it's an interesting choice. And RFK, here's another thing. He's not saying he's anti-vaccine, but what he wants to do is invest in inactivated whole virus vaccines, which are slower and more dangerous to produce, unlike mRNA vaccines, which can be rapidly synthesized without any virus at all. To make whole virus vaccines, you actually have to grow up a ton of virus so you can inactivate it. So, I mean, it's ironic that he's saying that when he's kind of also spread these lab leak theories.
Yeah, I don't believe it for a second. Oh, what I really want is this other kind. Trust me. Well, then where are you funding that? Well, no, we're not going to fund that.
No, I think he did. He gave a bunch of money to, maybe these are his friends, to this other company that was going to roll out a vaccine.
Well, if we get a bad version of H5N1 and it's anywhere near 46%, let's say it's half of that. Let's say it's 23% of death. Let's say it's half of that. Let's say it's 12%, a quarter of what they're saying. 12%. That's a massive amount of people getting killed. And we're not going to be fast enough to get a vaccine doing it this whole virus way, like it's old Mr. Salk, old Dr. Salk testing on chicken embryos and stuff.
So Kennedy explains that evidence-based, ethically grounded solutions BARDA will focus on instead of mRNA vaccines are whole virus vaccines. This likely refers to his $500 million payout to Mamoli and acting NIAID director Jeffrey Tannenberger to make a quadrivalent inactivated whole virus universal flu vaccine that has been christened the generation gold standard. Not only is this vaccine technology old-timey enough to have been developed by Jonas Salk, it is less effective than mRNA vaccines, at least for COVID. Inactivated whole vaccines don't produce sterilizing immunity either.
Okay, so but Dr. Heath, we got mRNA for these respiratory illnesses. Now, COVID is a different style. It's a coronavirus, right? And what about the influenza, though? H5N1, the one that I really care about. I feel like Corona's in my rearview mirror. I know it's not for everybody, and people got long COVID, and it's an ongoing problem. But we're looking in the rearview for a lot of this stuff. But flu, it's different, right? Is mRNA still better for flu, like H5N1?
Yeah, because you could make any piece of the virus and turn it into a vaccine. That's just what mRNA does. And it uses the, your own body's technology to replicate that portion and ramp up an immune response to it.
Okay, so what about StoryCorps 123 says, how about we stop letting governments create effing viruses? Is that
Oh, I'm all
something-
for government to stop creating effing viruses. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, let's
But
do
how
that.
do we do that if we're going to continue to grow? Look at, I mean, this is
mRNA, you don't have to create an effing virus.
You don't have to create an effing virus if
no.
you, okay, because you just create the piece of it that, okay, I got you. All right. So you don't have to create an effing virus. You don't have to have gain of use function and all of this, huh? You just have to isolate the virus and be able to use it for the mRNA.
No,
okay,
and you don't. Yeah, you just get a segment of it, turn that into your mRNA vaccine. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, but then we got the other. We're not doing mRNA anymore, so we're screwed. I wonder.
No, now we're making now the government is having to make effing viruses.
Effing viruses,
like
great.
So. I was against that. JFK is or RFK is for that. So
StoryCorps 123. If you are against the government making effing viruses, then we should
tell it to
support
RFK.
mRNA. Yes, tell RFK about mRNA ASAP. Is that enough initialisms for you? Nice. Okay, so okay, cool. All right. Am I allowed to be afraid now or no? Still not. Okay, transmission likely is occurring
I guess I want to validate your feelings. I'm just saying also I want you to be productive. And I don't think fear is a powerful motivator, but maybe it is for you. So that's, if you want to,
I guess I think it might be for others. I want to ring the bell. It's a 5-alarm fire. It's a 5-alarm fire. We should be telling everybody that this is coming around the mountain and it's not going to be pretty. How do people get this? We need more studies like this with more cows over long periods of time. But trying to research H5N1 transmission in a laboratory setting is not where it's at.
Okay. I asked ChatGPT, what is a more motivating emotion for the public, anger or fear? And ChatGPT says anger is generally a more motivating than fear when it comes to spurring the public into action. Why is anger more mobilizing? Anger prompts approach behavior. People want to do something, confront injustice, or seek change. It provides a clear target, a corrupt company, a harmful law, which helps focus action. Anger fosters solidarity. And that you see how cults do this.
Yeah,
so we got to be careful.
Okay, but let me try. Okay, StoryCorps 123. I'm with you, man. I'm pissed off as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go and tell RFK Jr. that we are mad and we do not want the government to create effing viruses. We want mRNA because, for God's sake, we don't want them creating more viruses in labs that kill us all like 28 days later.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Nice. Every time Sky says coronavirus, I think of Cardi B. Is that? I don't understand that joke. All right. So transmissions likely is through what? Through cows in Cambodia? Is that what's happening?
I imagine mostly poultry, but I actually haven't looked into it. But I can talk to you more about the new research that came out of California about the spread of H5N1 in dairy cows. So we know a little bit more about how that is spread. So this is a new preprint that came out. And we need more studies like this because most of the studies are done in the lab where they've been trying to infect cows in the lab using shared milking equipment. And they're like, we just know that cows are spreading it to each other through shared milking equipment. But in the lab, we just can't make it happen. But this
it's like when you bring your car to the mechanic and it's like, it makes this noise. Well, I can't get it to make this noise. So
yeah, so these researchers found that H5N1 virus was detected not only in milk, but also in air and wastewater on dairy farms. Transmission is likely occurring through contaminated milk equipment, sure, but also aerosols Aerosols in milking parlors, exhaled breath of infected cows, reclaimed wastewater used in irrigation and cleaning, viruses found in milk rinse water, sump pump pits, irrigated fields, manure lagoons used by migratory birds and grazing cows. Infectious virus was also detected in 2 wastewater sites, suggesting potential for environmental spread to humans, wildlife, and other cows. Longitudinal milk sampling of 14 cows showed that infected cows can be asymptomatic without any signs of mastitis. Virus is often restricted to one or more udders,
Udder
udder
quarters.
quarters, and stays localized over time. And the pattern of infection did not match the distribution of mastitis, challenging assumptions about symptom-based screening.
So everything they
So
were telling us and everything. So you and I going to these dairies and looking at it, and we're like, I think it's the flies and the birds mixing with
yeah,
their
they haven't even gotten
food.
into the flies yet. I mean, this just
Yeah.
looked at everything else. Like, still, the flies, there needs to be more research on the flies for
But when you
sure.
go when you go to these dairies and they're feeding the cows and they're covered in birds and their food is covered in birds because birds eat the same things as cows and the birds are all around their heads, and then they're standing in this water in these just disgusting dirt patches that these dairies are all on, and there's just standing water and urine and feces, and the cows are drinking out of the same. That's where the
Yeah.
virus is coming from. Let's face it. I mean, it was so obvious when you're there.
Yeah, that's why you gotta just look, put your eyes on, like, it's just like, the
It's
number
not the
one rule
milk.
of journalism: if one person tells you it's raining outside and another person tells you is it sunny, you got to go out there and look for yourself.
You got to go look.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And we've been there. We've been to these dairy farms and we've seen with our own 4 eyes that
Mhm.
it's clear as day what this is. It's just like
Well,
anyone.
I mean, okay, Sky always makes type 1 errors where he attributes causation, correlation and
They
causation.
seem
Noah
to have
says,
panned out this.
clearly, like, this is this. I always make type 2 errors, which is like, well, we don't have enough evidence yet. So, like, I'm going to assume that's not the case. But so I think there's a little in between the two of us. Like, I am not all for it. It's clearly, like, we still don't know, but hey, it's in all of these things. How are the cows getting it? Clearly, milking equipment is not the sole driver and not the sole
But that was
spread.
clear before this came out, is all I'm saying. If you go there and look at it and you
Yeah.
see hundreds of cows standing in urine and feces, wallowing in mud, and you're surrounded by birds and pests, flies, you're like, well, this is gonna be disease. Like, anybody could look. We should have looked at that 50 years ago and been like, we can't do this to
Yeah.
cows. They're all gonna get diseases. They're wallowing in their own urine and feces. They're gonna spread disease. No. That's fine. Trust us. That's fine. We've been doing this for 50 years. It's the milking equipment. It's those
Yeah.
darn illegals not washing the milking equipment when they're switching the cow. I mean, come on. We knew that wasn't it, but you're right. I jumped the
But
gun
yeah,
there. It just happened to
they
work out this time.
well, I think it's important to do our due diligence and figure this out for certain, because then it could tell us more about more viruses and how they might spread. Like, hey, is a cow wallowing in the urine of an infected cow? Is that going to go up her teats and infect her teats? Is she going to get that on her mucous membranes and infect her that way? I think it's good to know, because there's not a lot of virus in the poop, we were told, but
it is in the urine.
maybe. Yeah.
They are shedding it in urine. And if you're drinking urine from standing water, I'm thinking it's not a good idea.
Mhm.
All right. What else, Crystal? Tell me. Lay it on me. We
Okay,
only got a few
so
minutes before.
they said workers may be exposed via inhalation, particularly during milking. Environmental contamination with infectious virus adds risk of broader spread to wildlife and human populations. Some viral mutations may increase human transmission risk, though none were found to be sustained in the study. Subclinical infections complicate detection and containment, as infected milk may enter the food supply undetected. They recommend to disinfect milking equipment between cows using backflush systems. They recommend PPE for farm workers, especially eye and respiratory protection in milking parlors. Isolate all infected cows, even if asymptomatic. But how are you going to do that if you don't have a bedside test that farmers can use. And so you need to do something like that. Treat and contain waste streams before reuse. So before you pulled out your wastewater into the field, you got to treat it with something. I don't know.
Oh, that's
bleach or
again.
whatever.
I didn't even think
Adding
of
more
that. They're
chemicals.
spraying it all on our. They're gonna spray it on our carrots. We're gonna get bird flu through the
That's
carrots.
the first thing I thought of for sure.
That's the first thing you thought of. Oh my God! I was thinking,
remember me going in with the
yeah, but I
Grimway
thought you were
carrots
worried
and
about E. coli and
I was worried
salmonella,
about-
the regular suspects.
Yeah,
The
I've
usual suspects, the stuff we always get from vegetables because they spray poop and pee on it. But in this case, there's bird flu in the urine. They're spraying it on carrots.
yeah.
What could go wrong?
So here's an interesting thing that was also undiscussed. 3 of those cows that were in this study were sent to slaughter during the sampling efforts. They didn't say that the cows were euthanized. They didn't say that they were cold. They said they were sent to slaughter. Why? We don't know. Were they not doing well? And one was on antibiotics for mastitis. So did these carcasses enter the food system? Were they condemned at the slaughterhouse, or did they enter? And that's
I
like
hope
a
you're
pretty
cooking
high...
I hope you're cooking your steaks to temp. Like, you better
Yeah.
not, no more medium rare, everybody. You better be eating well done. You're gonna get something. I mean, how come pasteurization isn't mentioned here? Every time I hear about this raw milk situation too, because raw milk has bird flu in it, but pasteurized milk has only the acids, right? There's no active virus. Shouldn't they mention this every time? Stop drinking raw milk, you crazies.
In a
I mean,
study, I mean, that's beyond the scope of the study, but
is it because they said, like, we need to stop, we need to clean the equipment, we need to wear PPE, we need
well,
to
I
do all
mean,
these
they already pasteurized, so like that's already part of
all
the
right,
thing.
okay.
Except for in 21 people in Florida were sickened
what I
from
was just
drinking
thinking
raw
about.
milk. So yeah, the Florida Department of Health said Monday that there have been 21 cases of Campylobacter and E. coli infections linked to drinking raw milk in the state. So far, 7 of those 21 patients have been hospitalized, and 6 were among children under the age of 10.
Did any of them die? No, the 2 were in critical care, I think.
Oh,
5
wow.
of them were hospitalized. I forget how it all broke down. 2 got super sick, and 5 were sick enough to get in the hospital. I think there were 21 of them who came down with something, and it's bird flu.
It's bird flu? No, it's E. coli, and
It's E. coli.
it's Campylobacter and E. coli infections. Yeah.
Okay.
They said, like many states, Florida allows farms to sell raw milk as long as it's labeled as pet or animal food. The Florida Department of Health says this labeling limits regulation of sanitary practices on farms that produce it. The bacteria that cause STEC infections are dangerous because they produce Shiga toxin, which blocks protein creation in cells, causing cells to self-destruct. This sets off a potent immune response that's hard to stop. This response triggers a cascade of inflammation targeting the lining of our blood vessels, says Dr. Norman Beatty, a infectious disease expert at UF Health Shands Children's Hospital. That can lead to tiny blood clots forming in the vessels, which can then travel to and damage the kidneys. This is a condition known as hemolytic uremic syndrome. It is most common in children under 5, but it can happen at any age, and the condition can be life-threatening. So there you go.
But Dr. Heath, if who is drinking this bird flu? I'm sorry, I got bird flu in the brain. Who's drinking this unpasteurized milk that's supposed to be for pets? Because in Florida, it's against the law to sell unpasteurized milk for human consumption. Are these poor people who just want to drink milk cheaper or something? Is it cheaper? I
haven't heard that. I've just heard it's mostly like people who are bougie and think that they're getting some benefit from drinking raw milk, and so they seek it out. Like Joe Rogan was mentioning drinking raw milk, and RFK, and all of these people. So it's like a trend.
So it's these Make America Healthy Again people. It's this this trend of these carnivore influencers and stuff who are talking about eating raw milk, unpasteurized raw milk. Ugh. No. I mean, when did Pasteur do his thing? In the early 20th century. So for 100 years, we've been pasteurizing milk. We've had all of this all this. I mean, I think it enslaves animals, so I'm not for it. But I mean, a lot of lives have been saved. Human lives have been saved because of this. We're just going to
Yeah.
throw that out the window. Campylobacter. I thought it was. I thought just the gestation sows were getting Campylobacter, because that's a concern there too, right?
No, it's everywhere. Campylobacter is everywhere. Yeah, from all different kinds. So
It is.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I thought it was just a gestation crate, and I know we want to talk about Save Our Bacon Act. I thought we could talk about that really quickly.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, this would be a good piece to clip and make a reel out of. So I'll just do my spiel. The Save Our Bacon Act, HR 4673, it's kind of gaslighty. Prop 12 doesn't actually affect bacon as we know it. California accounts for 13% of U.S. pork consumption, yes, but Proposition 12 affects about 4% of U.S. pork. And per California Code of Regulations, the definition of whole meat pork includes an uncooked cut of pork, including bacon, yes, ham, chop, ribs, riblet, loin, shank, leg, roast, brisket, steak, sirloin, or cutlet that is comprised entirely of pork meat, except for seasoning, curing agents, coloring, flavoring, preservatives, and similar meat additives. So yes, bacon is listed, but most commercial bacon is processed. It's cured, smoked, sliced, often with added sugar, nitrates, or spices. This means it's not uncooked and not entirely pork meat. It's processed pork, which exempts it from Prop 12 in enforcement contexts. The term whole pork meat in Prop 12 is interpreted narrowly. Enforcement has largely focused on uncooked cuts like pork chops or loins. Cured or smoked bacon is generally treated as processed, especially if it's been sliced, packaged, or flavored, which is nearly all store-bought bacon. Retailers, producers, and courts use USDA labeling categories. The USDA classifies bacon as a processed product, which informs how California regulators interpret Prop 12 enforcement. So, raw, uncooked pork belly from which bacon is made could be regulated under Prop 12, but store-bought bacon is not. So the Bacon Act should not be named as such, because you're not saving your bacon.
So it's a misnomer, and also intentionally so, to mislead people. Save Our Bacon Act isn't there to save bacon. It's funny because pork belly is something in the restaurant business we would see a lot of, and people be like, what is it? And you have to say, well, it's basically like bacon. It's just way less processed, way more fatty, and people like it because it's flavorful, it's thicker. It's not like the bacon that you get in the store. It's restaurant style. So I guess it would still, because that's just a cut, right? Pork belly, but not bacon. Bacon's super highly processed. That's why it's so carcinogenic, right?
I thought the carcinogenicness was from like how we cook it and fry it and burn it and make it crispy, but I don't know.
No, I thought it was because we add a bunch of sugar and salt and nitrates to it. We add so much to bacon to make it, and then the artificial smoke flavor, all that stuff is fake, and it's a bunch of additives that we put on it that make it taste that way.
No, good to know. I mean, wow.
I mean, trans fat can still come from frying, right? But I mean, that's not like not a class 4 carcinogen or whatever the heck. Bacon's like cigarette level bad for you. So, and cooking it does make it more carcinogenic, I think. Bacon is from baby pigs. All the pigs that are slaughtered, most of them are pretty young. They're like under 6 months old. So that would be basically a puppy, a little piglet. They get big so quickly, but they're quite young. Yeah. And they could live to be 15, 16 years old. So you do the math. I think 6 months counts as a baby.
Yeah. Well, we are going to have on Maddie Krasno soon, and I can just read a bit about her story while we're waiting for her to arrive.
Yeah.
Maddie is a former Madeline Krasno is a former primate lab worker turned powerful advocate for compassion and transparency in science. Her successful free speech lawsuits against UW-Madison and the NIH, featured in the Washington Post, sparked national dialogue about the hidden human and animal costs of experimentation. And today she leads Justify, a groundbreaking nonprofit creating space for current and former animal research professionals to process their experiences, reclaim their voices, and help build a more ethical, human relevant future in science.
Great.
Yeah.
Can I bring her on? I'm going to bring her on. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh,
Maddie, welcome.
Well, hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Welcome back, I should say. You've been on the show before.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while, but yes.
It has. But you've got news too, right?
I have some news. It's been a big week. It was a big Friday. So, yeah.
You set precedent for the animal. So, yeah, what happened this week?
What happened? Well, about 4.5 years in the making, I found out that my the appeal for my free speech lawsuit was ruled in my favor. So I had initially gotten into a lawsuit against my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, Madison, because they were censoring discourse about animal research on their social media, specifically what I was saying as an alumni and former lab worker. So that had led to a free speech lawsuit brought on by the Animal Legal Defense Fund, who represented me. And it's been literally years in the making. I mean, it was initially ruled against us, and then we appealed it. And now we just heard on Friday that we won.
So this is a victory for the animals, for lab techs who are speaking out, and also for freedom of speech. You're the trifecta.
Yeah, all good things. I mean, I think it's, there's a lot of ramifications for this. It's important for us to be able to talk about these issues, and especially when the places that are funding them or, getting funding for this, taking part in the research itself, if they're blocking actual discussion about it, then it's going to be really hard to make change and advocate for better science, that's not harming animals in labs, but also humans in labs, because anyone who's watching knows that I like to go on mini rants about the psychological harm that takes place for the individuals who are working in the labs. I experienced that firsthand. Yeah. So being able to talk about this is super important. And that's going to, of course, benefit humans and animals alike, because we want justice. And so,
well, you've spoken so powerfully. Yeah, absolutely. Since you've been speaking so powerfully about your experience in primate research lab, maybe you could tell us what the turning point was that made you decide to speak out.
Yeah. So, it was really a few years after I had left the lab. And I would say what really kind of gave me the courage to start dabbling in sharing my story was after I had read a book called Voracious Science in Vulnerable Animals, A Primate Scientist's Ethical Journey. And this was written by Dr. John Gluck, who was a primate researcher and who spent decades actually in different labs, but one of them was Harlow Primate Lab, where I worked just many years before me. He even worked under Harry Harlow. And when I came across his book a couple years after I had left, it was this kind of unreal experience, because, I think there's a lot of people who end up one way or another in this industry, but most people don't talk about it. Especially, you don't hear a lot from people who have spent a good amount of time in the lab, and then come out sort of thinking, I don't think I feel the same way I felt about this. I have issues with this. And so hearing John's story and what he calls his ethical journey, was sort of like, oh, he's talking about it, and he's doing okay. I was really afraid to talk about it. There's a lot that feels like is at stake if you're to come out against this industry. And so eventually I was able to, connect with some others, but I also got to meet him, which was great. And from connecting with others and starting to sort of feel like there was support out there and that I wasn't going to get just a ton of judgment, I decided to take to social media and start kind of sharing bits and pieces of what I was remembering, because I'd been traumatized for quite some time, and trying to sort of deal with that. One of the ways I was finding was helpful was actually talking about it. And so once I took to online, there was just like a snowball effect of things taking place.
Yeah. And once you find safe people to talk to about it, like that's so helpful. And you think you can talk to animal rights activists, but far too many are going to call you a bad person. And perhaps been a part of that.
Yeah, it can be really difficult to kind of find your community. And, there's a lot of animal rights activists that are very supportive of me and my work, like you guys. And then there's also, I've had some of the worst things said to me by animal activists. And I don't mean years ago. I mean,
yesterday.
So it's really kind of fascinating to,
well, Maddie, let's go a little bit farther back though, because you mentioned Harlow Center, and I don't think everyone knows of the Harlow Center for Biological Psychology. Can you talk about the reputation that place has and kind of what it is?
Yeah. So, if anyone's taken like a psych course, most people have heard about Harry Harlow. His name is very infamous. He is, kind of recognized as one of those individuals that showed us that, babies need affection, right? That like, infants do better when affection is shown to them. I sort of laugh at this because to me, I'm just like,
she's pretty obvious.
Yeah. But he helped prove that by maternal deprivation studies. So he was literally taking infants, baby monkeys from their mothers, and he would put them, take them away from mothers. That's it. And then there would be like studies where, you might kind of remember these images where it's like a wire mom and a cloth mom, and the wire mom has food, and the cloth mom and food, I mean like a bottle, something to get,
she's got some kind of reward for the for the baby.
And then the cloth mom is just cloth. And what they found is that the babies like to spend the most time on the cloth mom because it's comforting, right? Like it's like, oh, they go to get some food, but they're not going to stay there just because the food's there. They want comfort. Again, feels obvious to me, but I think this is where you could get into some of these issues with what I think we consider science to be. And, the point that I want to consistently make, which is that being against this research, being against testing on animals does not mean you're against science or progress or caring for humans. So
did it always seem obvious to you?
Did it always seem obvious? Not necessarily. I think it wasn't as obvious because I wasn't necessarily familiar with what they were doing. And also, I think, when you're young and impressionable and people in authority positions are telling you things, they're teaching you things, we're taught to listen to them, and we're taught to often assume they're right. I think there's more and more teachers these days who are not doing that, who are trying to teach people more to think critically, and to not necessarily be like, believe everything I say. I'm always right. My opinion is right. But generally speaking, we live in a society that is hierarchical. And, that applies throughout our lives. And so like, even when I wasn't in a lab yet and I was thinking of going in and working in one, I was like, hearing all this discourse that animal research, you know, it might not be great, but we treat the animals as well as we can. It's really important. It saves lives. And so I'm assuming that's true. And obviously, once I got the job as a caretaker and was on the inside, I started to question things. But even when I was questioning things, I was also very aware that this was an environment where it was very safe to question things and express too much concern.
Yeah. So why in the first place did you decide to work at the Harlow Center for Biological Society? I can't talk today.
You're also welcome to just call it Harlow Primate Lab, but that's how we always knew it, as
Harlow Primate Lab. Got it. Yeah. That's easier to say, right?
Yeah, Harlow Primate Lab. Yeah, so I ended up getting a position there as a student caretaker because I had looked up to Jane Goodall for a very long time, and I really thought that, you know, I was going to go into primate conservation. I had a dream of that. And, you know, I'd grown up loving animals. I thought I would be a vet at one point because, you know, that's what we all think is, well, honestly, the only option, right? And so, you know, as I kind of got into school, I think I started to think like, oh, there's being a veterinarian, but then there's also conservation. Like those were my two sort of understandings of like what exists, aside from maybe working in an animal shelter, like a dog and cat shelter. So I, you know, really looked up to Jane Goodall and was thinking about pursuing this, but I was a little afraid of the sciences. What ended up sort of like pushing me over the edge and making me decide like, yes, I'm going to do it, is my freshman year of college when I took a class that was specifically about all of the primates. And it was taught by the director of the primate lab at the time. But it was very much about the different species and how amazing they are and what they're like in the wild. And at one point, you know, the professor put up on the screen this photo of one of his former students working with Jane Goodall. And I was just like sitting there in the audience, like, what is stopping me from being that person, you know, from becoming that person? It was like, well, it's me and my fear of chemistry. So all of the sciences that, you know, you're required to participate in to get a zoology degree. So it was after that I ended up deciding, you know, I'm going to declare zoology as a double major. I was already doing child development, and, you know, I was going to wait for a caretaker job to open up in one of the primate labs, because there's actually two technically at the university. And Harlow had the first one that opened up, and I was apparently kind of a shoo-in because I reminded my former boss of one of the other caretakers that she really loved, who was just like very great at her job and on top of things. So
in you went.
And in I went.
So what was it like working there?
What was it like? It feels a little surreal. I mean, sometimes I kind of like question that it could have even been real, because it's such a unique environment that's so difficult to kind of explain to other people, because it really feels like you're in a different world. I mean, this building is just this like brick building, and there's like some windows, but they're all sort of, what do you call it? Like fogged over, like you can't see in or see out.
They're frosted.
Yeah. And so you've got, you know, there's primates on 3 of the 4 floors. It feels very much like a dungeon, like even when you're on the 2nd and 3rd floor, because the primates were in the basement, the 2nd and the 3rd floor. The 1st floor was like offices. And, you know, it definitely like felt very bleak, and it was often quite noisy. You're hearing the monkeys screaming, yelling, making their cooing sounds sometimes. And I just, you know, it was definitely one of those things where like once I was inside and once I was on the primate floors, I was just sort of like, oh my God, what what is going on here? Because when you love animals and you're there to try to take care of them and help them, but you're told that like this environment they're in is suitable for them.
Yeah.
And it's barren cages, some of them living alone for most of their lives, if not all of their lives. Being ripped away from their babies being ripped away from their mothers. I remember one monkey who there would on the cages, there were either clasps that you could like easily kind of undo to get a door open, or there would be like padlocks. And there was one monkey who, he just kept undoing the clasp. And he would undo the clasp and open the door a little, but he wouldn't leave the cage. And so you'd like go in and you put the clasp back up. And this went on a few times. And, I felt bad because like what you're supposed to do then is go get a padlock, because obviously you need to keep the monkey in the cage. That's where they're supposed to be. And it's dangerous to have, this was actually one of the breeder males, like one of the big guys. And so I felt bad going and getting a padlock, but I eventually did because, I'm supposed to. And he was literally just doing this because he's bored, like this is what they had to do. This is what we've done to these individuals and why.
Sure.
I know.
Are these all different types of monkeys, or are they just rhesus macaques? What are we talking? Crystal and I did an episode of Vegan World Radio where we talked a lot about all different species of monkeys.
Yeah.
Who were the monkeys in the primate lab at
Harlow?
Talked
about all different species of monkeys without me.
Yeah, you were always welcome to tune in at 90.1 KPFT.
Inconsiderate.
Maybe next time we talk about monkeys, we'll have you on. How about that? Maybe. Yeah.
So mostly rhesus monkeys. There was a point during my time at the lab where a new researcher arrived and she had brought some monkeys with her from a lab across the country. And so she had brought 12 cynomolgus macaques. These are like the long-tailed crab-eating macaques. So those were the type that I was with. Of course, there are other kinds of monkeys that are used in research. Like the other lab on campus also had, or I should say has, marmosets, the little itty bitty guys.
Yeah, marmosets are popular at Madison for some reason. I don't know. They're smaller and easy to handle or something. They always have marmosets at Madison. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, and there's actually, I don't know if you know this, but there's, so the marmosets are in, the bigger primate lab, and there's a part of it where, like if guests are coming in or something, there's an area where people can go, and it basically looks more like a zoo setup. Like it's this clear, like as opposed to bars, it's like clear,
like a viewing area. Yeah,
and it's like this like zoo like setup for the marmosets, like just some of them to be like, look, they're happy. And I think there's even maybe cameras like now that like show them, but it's very interesting to me because it's just like, here, look at these ones, not the ones that are in barren cages that like are barely bigger than their bodies.
Or the ones we're starving and giving cocaine to and depriving them of
drilling
sleep.
Into their heads.
Let's not show them. I know that Madison was recently doing a sleep deprivation study with marmosets where they would keep them awake with loud noises and then have them perform tasks for food and water. And they would measure what their
work.
And then determine their cognitive decline. It's like, well, we know that when you pull an all-nighter, your test score is going to be lower than if you got a good night's sleep. We already know this.
It's wild because I don't think they have something like 40,000 students they could do that research with.
Right. Exactly. Deprive humans of sleep. I mean, and then they could like actually tell you how they're feeling about
themselves. And it's going to be a lot more accurate because, it's actually
and human relevant. Right.
Yeah.
So when did you start like commenting on their social media posts about this?
2020. It was around 2020, I think. 2019, 2020. Somewhere in there. It's like, time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When did this turn into like a lawsuit?
Yeah, so it definitely was 2020 when I remember I had initially made a few like posts on my Instagram that were like talking about
your experience.
My experience. And then I was getting, support from individuals, and I was like, okay, like this is cool. Like I'm not being yelled at, and I feel like people are appreciating that I'm helping to like enlighten people about what's actually going on. And so from there, I was like, you know what? If anyone looks up my past or looks me up, they're going to know I went to Madison. Like, I'm just going to start naming the lab. Like because before I wasn't naming them. I was like, I worked in a mysterious primate lab, but it's like,
yeah, they're going to know which.
Right.
Like you're being clever and secretive, right?
Yeah. I hadn't been public for like a long time on social media or anything. So it's like, but at some point people were going to figure it out. So I started tagging them and like naming them. And what immediately struck me, because like when you tag someone on Instagram, like in their tagged photos, and you go to their Instagram, like unless their Instagram is private or whatever, it's going to show up that like you made a post that they're tagged in their tagged photos. And almost immediately they untagged themselves from like all of mine. And what made me go like, is that they had tagged posts from other people. Like, it's not just, so like clearly they were selectively saying like, nope, we don't want to be tagged in this. And so at the same time, I had also kind of started commenting on some of their posts. And
for you and me, that's a good function, right? Like if you say something about me that I don't like, I can untag myself, right?
Sure.
Or you just post a picture of me that I think I got a double chin on. I always do that to Crystal. Crystal doesn't have a double chin, but I always post pictures of her with double chin, and she untags herself.
Yeah, that is so rude.
That's not. This doesn't happen. I commented one time on the Washington Post thing. I'm like, hey, can you switch that out with a photo where I don't have a double chin? That would be great.
She did not have a double chin in the photo, but that's neither here nor there. It's there. That function is there for us to do that, but it's against the law for a publicly funded university to do that very same thing because they are limiting your freedom of speech, right?
Right. I mean, that gets into the lawsuit because basically what I didn't know at the time, like I knew very little about the law at that point. And I just was kind of like, red flag, this seems off, but are they allowed to do this? And that's when I went to my friend, Christopher Berry, who was with Animal Legal Defense Fund at the time, and was like, are they allowed to do this? And he was like, no, I don't think so, because, taxpayer dollars, they're getting that, they're getting government funding to do the research they're doing. This means that like, freedom of speech is a thing here.
Yes. This is one of my favorite parts of your story, actually, is this part, because I'm such a free speech freak. And the fact that it's like, you know what? That's what you were doing, what I encourage everyone to always do. Not only be a whistleblower, but hold them accountable, ask questions, criticize the ones in power. And there you are actually doing it, having the courage to speak up. And what do? They silenced you.
Yeah, they actually ended up like going all the way by restricting my account.
They restricted your account. Oh, I didn't know that.
What an honor.
And this is all in the Instagram.
I'm in the running for favorite alumni, as you can imagine.
After this is all said and done, you'll be invited to go speak there. I bet you anything. You'll be
And ironically, now your path is more similar to Jane Goodall's than it was before. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's still like, even though I didn't do the whole primate conservation thing, it's still, she's still everything to me. Like, I'm just still like, she is this person we should be looking to. And I'm still grateful for her work. More so every day. But anyway, yes.
I got in trouble for just naming the monkeys. And
I know. Yeah. It's, that's controversial. You're not supposed to builds any sort of relationship. And they do a really good job in animal research labs of preventing you from building relationships with these animals, because they put so many of them in one place that it's so hard to individualize them. Like, you know, I was caring for, there was a point where there were about 580 monkeys in the lab that I was in. And so on the weekends, when there'd be like 2 of us students in like caring for all of them, doing all of the like health checks, medications, hosing down the rooms and stuff, 580 monkeys to feed, to, you know, make sure are okay, in this short matter of time. And, you know, and then when you think about like hamsters and guinea pigs, mice and rats in this industry, you have thousands of them. It's like we are set up to fail in terms of trying to care for these animals in any sort of way that is close to what they deserve, you know, even if our heart is like truly there. Like I truly wanted to help them.
Well, this is where Justify comes in too. Justify is a unique organization in that it tries to help people still inside that system, those who have been set up for failure that you just mentioned, right? How does that begin that process? Why is that healing work so important? You know, maybe you could talk a little bit about those people who have been set up to fail and how Justify is helping them.
Yeah. So, you know, along with these lawsuits that came about, lawsuits, we only talked about one, but of course there were
let's
2.
Go back to the other one.
One against the NIH as well, which was similar, and we actually won the appeal similarly. We just won that one first, even though the Madison lawsuit happened first. But yeah, basically throughout all this time when I've been, you know, speaking out and kind of, I don't know, just becoming more of a spokesperson on this topic, I started to hear more and more from others who had been a part of the industry, and or who even currently still are. And it's just been so like genuinely heartwarming to hear from people that me sharing my story is helping them feel seen and helping them realize that they are not alone in the feelings they have, whether or not they're still in the industry or not. I know, especially on the care side of things in these labs, a lot of people do get involved because they care about animals. And this is a job where you can take care of animals. And many people, you know, I want to say it was Dr. Emily Trennell, but I can't remember for sure because I've now been talking to so many people about this, but it was someone who said, like, people, like, you don't know how much you don't know about this industry. And even the people who think like they know, like, yes, it's horrible in these labs, you know, the animals are in these tiny cages. It's still, there's this kind of layer that is so impossible to know unless you've been in there trying to care for them, about what it's like to be in that space with them and to care for these animals and to feel so helpless. And to think that maybe you're capable of making change, and finding out that even if some change has happened, it then like doesn't continue when you leave, or, you know, things like that. So it's such a secretive industry. It is, you know, they're not encouraging people by any means to talk to each other about how they truly feel. And you're often told that you care too much, like or not that you care too much, like maybe you're not cut out for this work if you if you're showing that you care too much, or if you're expressing like, oh, I can't do XYZ, whatever that is. And so ultimately we've got a bunch of people who care a lot about animals. They're being told their compassion and their empathy is a problem, and you know, are being psychologically impacted by that. As I am. I was eventually diagnosed with PTSD. And so it's like there's so many layers to what this industry is doing in terms of harm. It's not just the animals, it's the humans too. And I'm not saying that to pit either one against each other, because the reality is that both are important. And, you know, any harm is wrong and needs to be done away with. And so I realized I didn't really get to the whole point of Justify, but basically that is why this organization Justify came about, because me and some others who had been a part of this industry in one way or another realized how wonderful it was to be able to talk to each other openly and not be judged, and be able to sort of feel empowered to continue to then even talk publicly and share our stories. And we were like, there needs to be an actual legitimate space for this, because we know there's more out there that are like us. And that is very apparent at this point in time. So
yeah, absolutely. The pathologizing of empathy is something like that. It happens in the veterinary profession too. And it's like, if you're squeamish about something, oh, you're just not cut out for this. And it's like, no, that's an emotion we should lean into. We should feel comfortable talking about. And it's so vicious, even on the supportive veterinary group that are meant, it's gaslighting. It's like, not one more vet supposed to be supportive, but literally this group was also attacking me and calling for my veterinary license to be revoked for taking photos of sick and dead cows in the Central Valley who are dying of H5N1. It's wild. It's like, oh, this is my safe space, but this isn't. It's like the reports team where you file a report and then you get backlash and you get canceled, and then the retaliation starts. It's HR. You know, the second you report to HR, they're trying to figure out how to fire you. We can't have people reporting things to HR. So it's and it's then you don't know who's safe to talk to. And I think that's just the scariest thing of like, you feel it isolates you, and that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to isolate people.
And
so
Maddie, sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, how long personally did this whole lawsuit thing take on you? Did the attorneys do most of it, or did it require a lot of time commitment from you too?
Yeah, so it definitely was quite a bit in the beginning in terms of like what it required of me. Like obviously a lot of the actual work and arguing and all of that's done by the attorneys. But I knew nothing about the legal process before this. So one of the things that I learned about was how you have to like go through, and it's during the discovery process is what it is, and basically turn in anything that's relevant to the case. And so I had to go through like all of these screenshots that I had taken of like proof where like I say something, but the comment doesn't show up, all of that. Or even like conversations or exchanges with people that used certain words and like clearly had to do with the lawsuit. So like a lot of my conversations with Ryan Hartkoff, who was one of the plaintiffs on the NIH lawsuit with me, and Madison resident, or recently was a Madison resident. I believe he just moved, but he was just like a friend who was, wanting to help, cared about this issue of primates in labs. And so he was the one who I kept being like, hey, can you see my comment? And then he'd be like, no, I can't. And then he was like, here, let me see, like, try now. And so like our exchanges had to go, and like these are submitted to the other side. So they got to like go through and look at that. So, I mean, this is one of the things about the legal process is like, when you're asked for things for discovery, you have to hand it over. And similarly, of course, the other side has to hand over stuff from discovery, which is, in the press release for my case and in some of the articles you may have seen, they like to talk about one of the things that was discovered in discovery, which was that some of the employees at UW-Madison were like talking about secretly trying to attend one of my talks.
Infiltrators.
Yeah, infiltrate my talk. And my whole thing is like, you don't have to infiltrate, just come. Like, I'm sure some of them are watching or are going to watch the recording of this. Like, I don't say anything that I wouldn't say publicly on a live stream. So,
yeah. But Maddie, you were taking on the NIH, you were taking on Madison, Wisconsin, and you were facing these professional risks. It was, I mean, you're facing some serious backlash. I wonder how, I mean, Justify didn't exist while you were going through this. How did you keep going? Like, that's, I think, pretty harrowing, right? How did you find the courage to continue over and over and over again to show up to all this and keep going?
Yeah, well, I will say the idea of Justify did come about in 2020, technically. So at the same time all of this was going on, me and my co-founders were chatting, and like, I think we sort of officially launched at one point at like in 2023, maybe finally or something. But, you know, we were all working full time in other areas of animal protection. And it was really hard to sort of give Justify the time and energy that it clearly deserves. And so it was really a sporadic thing. So yes, Justify was sort of just like kind of in existence, but barely there, not prioritized. It wasn't until basically a year ago, a little over a year ago, that we decided to pursue nonprofit status and become like an official organization. And I'm the executive director and yada, yada. So anyway, it was a really tough time, though, especially when I first filed the UW lawsuit, because I was terrified. I obviously talk very confidently about it now. A lot of that fear related to it does not exist anymore. But at the time, I had no idea what was going to happen. You know, like I didn't know if like somehow I would end up getting sued for something. I didn't know. I still don't know if I ever signed an NDA with them and what that NDA even had, you know, like if there was one. Not that like everything I talk about is really like about, you know, it's not about like research secrets, right? It's about like my experience with these animals or what I've witnessed. To me, it's just kind of like stories. But regardless, I just, you know, this industry is powerful. It has a lot of money. It doesn't want people to know, you know, this truth and how, you know, how it's impacting humans as well as animals in the labs. And so I say all of that because it was actually a really tough time mental health wise. And, you know, I was definitely in therapy throughout that time. I mean, I've been in and out of therapy over the years, but this was definitely a time where I was in therapy and trying to work through things that way. It's also, you know, when I developed, I wouldn't say developed, but probably like really started doing skin picking, which was like just kind of this reaction to feeling out of control. It's a OCD related thing for the people who don't know. But it's,
yeah, I do that too. Like, real bad.
So you know, my people who were sort of like around me in like, I guess 2020, 2021, 2022, like knew that there was a point where like you wouldn't have even recognized me if you saw my face and what I had done to it, because I would pick it until it bled. I was scabbed all over and I couldn't stop. This is why I always have nails, because it helps me to not take to my skin, believe it or not. Yeah, it's not because I'm just like, oh my God, I need to have nails. I mean, they're fun, like it's cool, but it's actually because I have this tendency to do that now. And I think a lot of this was from the stress and the fear around this, because I speak confidently about it a lot of the time, but then it's not like there aren't moments where I'm just feeling like a complete imposter. Imposter syndrome's real.
Sure.
Yeah, it's so hard, especially like when a group of people like views you as the bad guy, and it's like I don't, like, you're censoring me, like clearly I did something wrong. Like I felt that too. Like I felt like I'm the bad guy here. Like animal rights activists hate me and the industry hates me. Like I have nobody on my side. Like, and it sounds like you felt like that too.
Sorry, my cat is just vomiting. I'm just trying to make sure he's okay. think we're okay.
Cats.
Yeah, well, it's the toothless one. You know, he likes to kind of chew on something and then ends up gagging himself. So that's probably what happened, but just wanted to peek on him. Sorry about that.
So yeah, like just being the bad guy. Like, did you feel like you were the bad guy?
Well, and also just like feeling, there's like this question of like, is it just me? Am I the problem?
Yeah.
And like, you know, on some level you're not, but it's hard when it's like, you know, when you don't have that community, those people who truly know who you are, know your integrity, and, you know, like realize that what is taking place is truly, you know, injustice and needs to be dealt with as such. But yeah, it's hard going up against the powers that be.
And like, I'm sure like you thought your coworkers were your community. You're just like, I'm one of you. I used to work there. And that's the biggest fear I think they have is like the turncoat, because they always want to frame it as like these animal rights activists, these outsiders who don't actually know the industry. But then when you have somebody on the inside who's like, oh, actually, yeah, I did work for the industry, and I'm saying these things and they're right about this. That's the biggest threat, I think.
Yeah. I think that's where the power and justify comes in, because it's not just about healing individuals like myself and just general advocacy for animals and labs and science, but it's about like we've been there. Like you cannot just dismiss us as, you know, someone who's just seen a few photos or, you know, is getting, you know, I don't know, reading something online. Like we were there,
Maddie,
we took part in it.
What do you wish more people knew about the human cost here in these systems and how it affects the people working inside them?
I mean, first, I want to say that like it's not that I believe that every single person who is in animal research is, you know, sort of like there are bad apples, right? Or whatever phrase we want to say. But I think it's about not assuming that every single person in this industry is like out there to harm animals or doesn't care about animals or is sort of just like so disconnected at this point from what they're doing and the outcome. And the reality is I think there's a lot of people who end up part of this in one way or another, whether it's caretakers or even like PhD students who are like, to get a PhD, I have to do some sort of research. And, you know, they go in thinking, you know, I've got 3 months to do whatever, 6 months to do whatever. And the impact it starts to have psychologically on these individuals as they find themselves sort of in this power dynamic that perhaps they've never been in with these animals. You know, I know one individual whose line of thinking drastically changed just from being with one single monkey for their PhD. And in some ways, it's kind of like, oh, that would be a lot easier to change your thinking because you're with one individual. You can really get to know that one individual. But it also shows that it doesn't have to just be the people who are taking care of them, right? The people whose jobs are to feed and give water and, you know, if they're sick. And I don't know. I just wish people really kind of understood that there are people who genuinely like deeply care for these animals and are still struggling to this day. And that when people are asked, you know, how could you do this? Why did you stay? Like people are always like, you were there for 2 years. Why were you there for 2 years? I actually just spoke with someone recently who worked with chimpanzees that were in research. And I can't say this any better than she did, so I'm just going to say it. You know, when she was asked that question, she said, you know, how can I leave when my friends are in there? Like they can't. Yeah. How can I leave when my friends can't?
Absolutely.
And so yeah, that just, I mean, it like that still, every time I say that, I get like these goosebumps because it's just not that simple. It puts people in these truly ethically complex situations.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's heartbreaking.
it forces me to ask the question, because I think a lot of people ask this. You probably get asked this all the time, but like, in your vision, what is a more ethical, human relevant science system? Like, what does research look like in your mind? Like, how do we get out of this? How do advocates and professionals work together to build something that's more ethical?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of layers to like how we get there, sort of like, different avenues, but ultimately, I think it looks like not using animals in research, moving away from that. I mean, if we want to truly benefit humans, we need to be using technology that mimics humans. I think we need to stop justifying use
as much as possible.
Like general exploration for the sake of like knowledge, because a lot of the research that takes place on animals is because, oh, well, if we find out, like, we could see what this does, and then maybe that will do that, and then we could see what this leads to. And it's not even like, oh, we're testing like the efficacy of this vaccine. Like it's basic knowledge. And to me, I just, I don't think that we should be justifying basic knowledge or expanding our knowledge over how, like, somebody's life. That is just,
It's like trying to figure out why the Taj Mahal is beautiful by taking it apart brick by brick. That's what we're trying to do. In some of this stupid basic research. And it's a misallocation of resources, like I've talked about with H5N1.
Yes.
We're not studying the cows who are actually getting infected with H5N1 and their environments. We're trying to study H5N1 in the lab, which is such a waste of time. But so starting this nonprofit, I want to get into like what's been the hardest part about starting it. The details, the paperwork, the strategic plan. Like, what is the most difficult part of fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's hard about it. I mean, there's so much you have to do. It's so interesting when you're like kind of just like, for instance, when Justify came about, and it was sort of like this idea, and we're just kind of putting some information out there, and I can talk to people. But then when you're trying to become like an actual nonprofit, yes, you need to fundraise, you need to get funding, which is super difficult in general, but especially in the animal protection space, it's been really tough because it's really tough to get funding for issues related to animal research. There doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in funding work related to animal research. And there's a lot of interest in funding stuff that's focusing on farmed animals, but without understanding the connection between our food system and farmed animals in labs. So there's like all of that. And then there's, coming up with like, okay, so what is our strategic plan? What are our programs going to look like? What the 501c3 process, thank goodness, Lindsay, my co-founder, who's now president and CEO of the organization, is working on most of the 501c3, all of these like background operation side of things, because that's the kind of stuff that was just like keeping me awake at night. Like the list of, the long list that goes into all of that. And then, even just like day to day, keeping up with emails, keeping up with social media. And I say all of this because it's like all hard and it's all overwhelming. And yet I'm so excited to be working on this every day, because it is where my heart and soul is. Every time I speak with a new individual who has reached out to us, I'm just like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm supposed to be doing this. This is why I went through what I did. So it's as much rewarding as it is overwhelming. And there's
Yeah.
just like a lot of exciting things happening all at once right now. But yeah.
Do you need volunteers or anything, or are you still in your organizing phase trying to figure out?
Yeah, I think we're still a little bit in the organizing phase first.
Okay.
But like possibly soon. We're still sorting some things out. So it's more about, in terms of, if someone feels like they want to volunteer their time, honestly, the best thing they can do is just be platforming our work, sharing it.
Yeah.
Because we want Justify to become a household name where people just know we exist, where even people who are considering going into research labs might think twice about it. And this actually happened when I was visiting my alma mater almost a year ago. And I was doing some outreach on campus, and a student came up and goes, "Wait, are you that person who sued and was in the paper?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And this person was like,
Notorious.
Yeah. It was wild to me, honestly. Like, a number of people did that, and I just, my mind is blown by that. So I guess the media works. That's great. The news is newsing. But yeah, this person went on to say something very similar to my own start, which was, I was really interested in going into conservation, specifically primate conservation. I thought it would be, a good idea to potentially start working at one of the primate labs. And so I started doing some searching to just like get some more information about it. And your name came up and your story came up. And so then I didn't. And, what I think is so amazing about that is I was in the lab in 2011 to 2013. Instagram, I think, was like just created in 2011, 2012. Like the internet was not what it was today.
Yeah.
And so the fact that, the internet is what it is today, which can be good and bad, it just shows like what's possible, and that we can potentially change things sooner and help more people avoid psychological damage, and also, help animals, help science progress in the way we want to see it progress, make the world a better place, as cheesy as
Yeah. And this press is so important for that. I'm just looking now. According to Weber Shandwick, around 41% of a company's market value can be attributed to reputation. So like you doing this reputational damage to the company, the institution that is the Harlow Primate Lab, and really animal experimentation in general, you are significantly harming their reputation and their value. So good for you. What's next for Justify and you? What are you up to?
What is next? There's a lot happening. I would say aside from kind of the usual of just kind of gearing up as a new organization, we've got like a new website launching very soon, probably in the next few weeks. And fun stuff like that, more speaking events.
Cool.
We've got a documentary that's coming, not like us personally, but that will feature me, an interview, like a sit down interview with me, and kind of this whole idea of Justify. Basically, there are a lot of people in this documentary that have come from the industry or even a part of the industry. So I think this is going to be a pretty amazing documentary. I can't give you a ton of information in this moment, but it will be coming. So stay tuned. If you're not already subscribed to Justify, you should go to our website, whenwejustify.org, and subscribe, because I swear we're going to start sending out monthly updates, monthly newsletters. Nice. I think some people subscribe more than once because they're like, I haven't heard anything. And it's just like, there's a lot happening. So,
and your Instagram too, you're pretty active there, right?
Yeah, we are very active, like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
And what's your handle on Instagram?
On all of social media, it's at When We Justify.
When We Justify. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fantastic story. I'm so glad you won the lawsuit, won the appeal. Is there any more court things pending, or was that the last thing? That's it.
No. So, I mean, there's, of course, like Madison is still, in theory, has a chance to respond. If for some reason they want to appeal, then it would go to the Supreme Court.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That'd be fun.
But, I obviously don't know what they're thinking. And I don't think that they've responded to any of the like news media inquiries yet. So at this point, this is what we've got.
Yeah. And there's no like monetary value, is it? Or is it just like stop censoring people? That's sort of the deal.
No, yeah. I made a point that I did not, as much as I am, I've been paycheck to paycheck.
They
for as long
should
as
pay
I can
for your
remember.
therapy.
Yeah.
At least.
Stress.
I didn't want to make it a thing about money, because I didn't want them to think they could pay me off, because it's not about money, like, I mean, it's still like money helps, but it is. I think we asked for $1. I think that's what we did for the NIH case too. It was like $1 and lawyer fees.
Oh, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so they
also
would
when
cover like the NIH too, like they would cover the lawyer fees that took place, but
I think that's noble, but also safe. It's so much safer to say, okay, the money is not going to be the thing that's driving this. And then you don't have to ever ask yourself that question, because it's a hard question to answer depending on when they ask it. You know what I mean? If you, especially a lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck and, running a deficit or something. And then someone comes and says, well, could I pay you off? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
But when you've kind of prevented that from happening already, it makes it a little easier, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. We're hoping, I'm hoping that, if people are inspired by what I'm doing and have some extra few dollars, they might, give to Justify, become a monthly supporter, anything helps. And that's where my passion is at this point, like, I'm just grateful to be able to, at least in this point in time, be able to survive and do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can keep surviving and doing this.
That's the dream, right? To do what you love and actually fight, does the part of you, at least a tiny piece, kind of wanted to go to the Supreme Court? I mean, wouldn't that be pretty epic? Like, I went to the Supreme Court. I took it all the way to the Supreme Court for freedom of speech. We went all the way to the top.
I mean, it sounds very big, but I'm also like, I don't know. Is this like, where's the Supreme Court at these days? Would then it not be in favor of us? I don't know. And then it could change everything.
I guess you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's always a risk.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a risk with everything. There's a risk every day you get out of bed. So
absolutely.
But I don't know, at this point, I'm really excited about how things went. And it gives me some hope in this very bleak world we're in right now.
Well, it's not so bleak when I've got people like you out there fighting the good fight. What do you mean? I find this conversation has made me feel far less bleak, right? I mean, you've got someone out there fighting.
Well, and I think it's important we celebrate these wins, because it's, the big powers that be can make these wins feel really small sometimes. And to me, I think this is really big and, could really just like set some sort of precedent about like, letting us tell our stories.
Absolutely. And hopefully inspire more lab workers to break free and start telling their stories and not being afraid, and fight for change for these animals, and, more productive methods of experimentation that don't require confining monkeys in cages and
for sure
traumatizing lab workers. So thank you so much. Love love talking to you. And yeah.
Can you hear my dog whining?
Yeah,
Oh,
your dog. I think your
no.
dog wants. We got to give you back to your dog.
Yeah. She's like, I want dinner. It is 3 minutes past the hour.
The dogs can tell time. It's true.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maddie Krasno. We put your handle in the chat. Everyone, please go follow Maddie Krasno and follow her story. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome.
I think that was like I am inspired from it, because I think that when I think about ag gag laws, I think about all these powers that be that are constantly trying to silence us, right? And I feel, I mean, go out on a limb, we talk so much about all the subsidies that are going to these private corporations so that they can continue to do business. We're paying them. I know they're not public companies, but we're publicly funding these companies. They shouldn't be allowed to have any kind of ag gag against us. They shouldn't be able to silence us at all if our money's paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We should know where our food comes from, where our medications come from, and they're preventing that, and they're silencing people, and we should be angered by that and get, and Maddie, not a veterinarian, not a lawyer, but still made drastic change and reputational damage to the industry through her lawsuit, and worth, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in reputational damage, if not more. Maybe even millions of dollars. And that just shows we all could be doing something for the animals in our own way that will strike a blow to them. So, let's all try to get that done.
Yeah, they'll likely not be making that mistake again, silencing people who criticize this. They can't just delete your comments. They can't do that stuff. And I think it should encourage people to go to the NIH website or their social media and leave comments, because now the courts have spoken. They're not allowed to silence you. They're not allowed to you could tag them. They're not allowed to untag themselves.
Yeah. Our next guest was going to be Krista Magnifico. I'm not sure if she's showing up or not. She sent me an email. She's on the East Coast, and she said I could join at any time after 7. And I don't know if that meant 7 her time or 7 my time. I emailed back, but we'll give it a few more minutes. And if she doesn't show up, we'll maybe close the show. But I want to tell you a little bit about her.
Well, yeah, I have her website queued up. Why don't you tell me about her while I put that on the screen?
Cool. Yeah. So she is the owner of Jarrettsville Veterinary Center, and she has been involved in veterinary medicine for 25 years and has worked in animal shelters as a volunteer. She earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in marine transportation from the United States Merchant Marine Academy, and her biology and doctorate of veterinary medicine degrees from the Virginia, Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. And she provides a full range of medical care and surgery to the patients of Jarrettsville Veterinary Center. And she's the founder of Pobly.com, which is designed to inform and empower people to allow them to better care of their animals.
Yeah.
So I think that's all great, but I also know her from Not One More Pet. And this is this sort of initiative to stop economic euthanasia of animals. And it's a spinoff of Not One More Vet, which is the veterinary suicide group that we have come to learn is quite toxic and maybe contributes more to veterinary suicide than they help. But Not One More Pet is, promoting access to care and things like we do. And now we know that there's a rise in the number of animals in shelters because people can't afford to care for their animals.
Yeah.
And and everybody's talking about like, well, what do we do about this? And my answer is publicly funded veterinary care. If we're going to fund veterinary care because everybody's giving up their animals to the shelter, why not provide access to care so that people can actually keep their animals and we don't just throw them in a cage somewhere?
I was thinking about this actually because someone put on some troll, trolls, they get you thinking sometimes, and some troll was on here talking about on one of my other streams saying animals don't have health care. That's because they have no rights. And then I thought, well, actually, the vast majority of animals get subsidized health care because
Yeah.
most animals are corporate owned in America, far more than any other animal, more than the wild animals, more than all the pets in the world. Most animals are corporate owned, and we are subsidizing their health care. These animals, although they don't have right to liberty or their own lives, have right to health care that you and I don't even have, which I think that was
Yeah.
kind of I thought that was a weird revelation.
Yeah, in many ways. This story, let me see if I can add it to the stage.
Then why wouldn't we do the same thing with I got you.
Okay,
Why
cool.
don't we do the same thing for pets? You'd think we would subsidize that. Let's have pets get free healthcare instead of all these, or if we're going to fund all this cows and chickens and pigs, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Animal shelters are crowded as high-cost squeeze pet owners. Millions of animals are stuck in increasingly cramped shelters because their owners are struggling to pay rising vet bills and other expenses. Let's see if we can play this video, actually.
Before you do, I have a
Oh,
question on the board for you. If
yeah, hold
suicide
on. Sorry, what was that?
is suicide an issue for veterinarians?
Yes, absolutely. We have one of the highest suicide rates of all professions. I think it's 1 in 6 veterinarians have considered suicide. So yeah,
And so that one
it's.
more vet.
Am I
And it's
strictly non-kill? No, I'm against the no-kill movement because I think locking animals in cages and for the rest of their life in many cases is more cruel than just ending their lives. So
Isn't there something about no kill as well that they end up turning away a large number of animals that are
yeah,
on a
that's what these no-kill shelters, they're not your city open admission shelters that
right?
have to take in anybody. They get to pick and choose. So they pick and choose the most healthy adoptable animals. And so they go by the numbers. So it's like we are only going to bring in animals that are you know, we know that we can adopt out. So it's not actually helping, anybody that way. Whereas city shelters, they have to take in everybody off the street. So
Yeah, and if
to
we if
punish a shelter for having a high kill rate, I think is really misinformed.
yeah, I mean most of us are misinformed about this. You always hear about shelters being demonized because they're kill shelters. It sounds bad, right? But I mean,
I'm surprised that's still a myth that's perpetuated, that people are still like, oh, I only adopt from no kill shelters. You're doing nobody any good then. You should adopt from high kill shelters. And you should volunteer.
PETAkillsanimals.com. I mean, this is why. This is
You
because of
which
that.
is and it's ridiculous that veterinarians got on board with hating PETA because they kill animals in shelters. It's like, are you again retaliating against the veterinarians doing the hard work of dealing with the
Mhm.
population crisis, the unwanted animal population crisis? Like, it's totally fine to criticize veterinarians if they're animal advocacy working for animal protection, but we can't criticize research veterinarians or leaders of the
True.
AVMA who are setting policy that hurts millions of animals, but we can criticize the local shelter vet. Okay, makes sense.
And these
Like,
shelter vets, especially like the PETA one is the one that I think it gets the most
mhm.
heat, but they are the ones, all these shelter vets, they are the ones that are taking all animals, and sometimes regardless of species. It doesn't even matter what speed. They get snakes, frogs, they get all sorts of animals turned in at these shelters, and they turn none away. What are they supposed
Yeah.
to do? There's nothing they can do. Our hands are tied. If people really cared about animals getting killed in shelters, then they should publicly fund spay and neuter programs, which are the most highly
Absolutely.
successful program in campaign in the animal rights history, or animal welfare history, or animal whatever history, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the abortion thing. It's like nobody wants abortion. Nobody wants to kill babies. Nobody wants to kill fetuses. But as long as we have situations where babies go unwanted and mothers don't get the care that they need to take care of babies,
Yeah.
and people are being raped and people don't have access to birth control, then like it's a reality.
or enough money to eat. Like, this is the thing. If you
Mhm.
if you the abortion topic gets really under my skin, because it's like they don't want to fund education, they don't want to fund child care, they don't want to fund child food stamps now, they don't want to file health care for children, they don't want to fund any of that, or even pay a living wage for the parents so that they can afford any of that. But they
Yeah.
want to but the government should stick their noses between the legs of women and tell them how to behave. Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to go that far, then you need to be paying out. You have to put your money where your mouth is.
There was a good meme. It was, my cat was obsessed with my stomach when I was pregnant with a big bump. Now, as soon as the baby's born, my cat doesn't care about the baby at all. It's a weird way to find out my cat's a Republican. Is really good meme.
I like that. But I guess, like, when we're talking about funding, there's money for these things. And we know, because we're funding the animal protein industry, we're funding the milk industry and the egg industry, we're funding all this with our money. And the military, we're funding the military to go kill children overseas, but we don't have the money all of a sudden for Medicaid or for food stamps for children. Even if it's just for children, I would be like, you'd think that they would at least carve that out, right? You think that they would at least be like, all right, anyone under 18 gets healthcare. Like, that, wouldn't that be enough? Wouldn't that be like, but they won't even carve that out because they hate kids. Let's talk about this thing though. We're off topic. I want to talk about this thing.
Let's play this video here about this.
No sound, but
oh no. How do I get the sound? Here, do you want to play it? Here, I can put the link, because for some reason you are always managing to play the sound.
Problem. Hook me up. Hook me up with the link in the wherever you want to send it, the private chat.
All right. Here you go.
Private chat. We have it. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm hacking the Gibson.
All right. So basically, this story is about New York City's largest animal shelter hit a sad milestone. Rocky, an 11-year-old dog surrendered by his owner, became the 1,000th animal at the Animal Care Centers of New York City, which announced July 18th that its 3 shelters stopped accepting dogs, cats, bunnies, and other critters except in emergencies. Yeah.
Okay.
It's so sad. The graying dog.
Here we go.
The graying pup stood in a cage in a peaceful side office inside the Brooklyn location. VIP treatment, considering hundreds of other dogs at the shelter were in tight quarters that never were intended to be overflowing. Okay, you got the video queued up?
I got the video. Yep.
Awesome. Let's play that.
Oh, sorry.
Has never happened before. Animal Care.
Could you hear any of that just now?
When it got onto the stage, I heard it.
Okay. Animal shelters in New York City are practically bursting at the seams, filled with cats, dogs, rabbits, and other critters. We hit a population of 1,000 animals. That has never happened before. Animal Care Center shelters in New York City says they're being forced to use overflow rooms and backup crates because too many people are returning their pets. So Rocky was our 1,000th animal. Why are folks giving up their pets? The main reason for pet surrender is I can't afford it. Vet care is expensive. Food is expensive. I mean, just human cost of living is expensive. Risa Weinstock oversees ACC's 3 NYC shelters, which announced on July 18th that they won't be taking any more animals. When we put out that message, over the weekend, we still took in 200 animals.
Oh my God.
So we're open for intake for emergencies, but we are asking the public to work with us to slow down what is coming in. Prices for kibble, leashes, and other pet goods have surged 22% since 2019, while pet services like grooming and vet visits have gone up 42%.
That's the vet's fault, right? The vet's fault's 42%.
No. So the corporations, the CEOs of all of these big companies in the pharmaceutical industry too.
The rich get rich again. You know, I look at that number 22% and I realize that there was a huge scandal for a while that Pedigree and a few other big brands, their dog food had lead in it because it was from China. Is a lot of dog food still coming from China? Is this a tariff thing? Is that why the prices are surging?
I don't think pet food is did they say pet food was rising? I
Yes,
wonder
they
if
said
how much.
kibble, wet
Yeah,
meat, and leashes, and just pet stuff, basic food
yeah.
and like the basics, leashes and food.
I mean, just the cost of
22%.
labor has gone up. Yeah, who knows what all of the thing is? Like everything's gone up.
But dog food is
Inflation.
a lot of it is made in China. So I wonder, I mean, of course, if you just take a portion of it and you raise the price, all of it's going to go up, I suppose. That's why I'm
Mhm.
really worried about coffee right now. Brazilian coffee is going through the roof. So that means 50% tariff on coffee from Brazil. All the coffee is going to go up because of that.
Mm.
Dog food is probably a similar situation.
This isn't just a New York.
It says most dog food is not made in China, especially
Okay.
top selling brands from US, Canada, or Europe. It's interesting, like the boutique brands, the Farmer's Dog, all of these things, like the
Mhm.
fresh, raw. People are buying more of those, it seems like. But the vast majority of dog food sold in the US is manufactured domestically. Brands like Purina, Nestle, Hills, Science Diet, Blue Buffalo, which is General Mills, and Pedigree,
Yeah.
which is Mars, is operated at large US-based manufacturing facilities, and they highlight made in the USA. Some ingredients, maybe vitamins, minerals, amino acids like taurine, are sourced in China.
Ooh. See, I
Some
don't know
low-cost.
why they had lead
Yeah.
in them, but I remember do you remember a while back they were
I
like
remember lead, maybe
toys?
toys, but in
Yeah.
the 2007, thousands of pets died or were sickened due to melamine-tainted wheat gluten sourced from China, and this
Oh,
led
is that what
to
it is?
tighter scrutiny and a surge in consumer demand for transparency. So the melamine was a way to increase the protein content, like because it's it was adding that the way that they test for how much protein is in a diet is by testing the nitrogen. Melamine has nitrogen
Yeah.
in it, and so they were
And so
adulterating it that way, which is
it,
very the jungle, the
but something was in it
sausage,
that was killing dogs. I remember there was
the
something from
melamine.
China in
Yeah.
the why would that kill dogs?
Why does melamine kill dogs?
Well, I
'Cause
mean,
it's
they're putting in
poisonous.
dog food. You'd think they would not put
It
stuff that literally kills dogs in dog food, right? It's like putting chocolate in
Well,
dog
they
food.
didn't know that it killed dogs. It's like, what did they
Oh,
add to the food
what the
in?
heck?
They
They
I
just
mean, they add lots of shit to food, and just
yeah, I just wonder how much
they
that
don't
stuff
realize until it becomes a problem. And not every dog died, obviously. So it's just
yeah.
you don't notice until it's like, oh, there's a lot of
It was almost
dogs
20 years ago,
dying.
but I remember it being a big deal that this stuff was coming from China and it was in big brands like those ones you mentioned. It's funny, you go to traveling around America, you see that Purina logo so frequently,
Yeah.
and you're just like on big silos and stuff like that. Like they're a big company, and it's
Yeah.
shockingly bigger than people think. All right, so here's the shelter. They look like they're in little microwaves. That's what these things remind me of, like an old, like an
Mm.
industrial microwave. That's what microwaves look like in industrial kitchens.
City problem. There were over 5.8 million animals in shelters nationwide in 2024.
Shelters in Arizona, Virginia, and
0.8
Tennessee
million.
also feeling the squeeze.
The interesting thing that we're seeing is that the length of stay, so the time that animals are spending in the shelter, is increasing year over year.
Weinstock says animals can stay in their shelters for just a few days or up to several months.
When you have to make that choice of putting an animal down, how does that decision come to be?
Not easy.
Yeah,
Euthanasia is the last choice. They will get sick. It's too many to be housing all the time. We don't want to warehouse them, but when we see signs of deterioration, we really need to make some hard decisions.
For those who want to help, Weinstock says volunteering, fostering, or adopting your next pet from a shelter can help chip away at the problem. They also give pet food and veterinarian resources to families in need.
Even if it's just one animal who we said, if we give you food for a month and you can pay your electricity, would that help you take your dog or your cat home? And they say yes, and they're crying because we were able to keep that pet with them. That's a good day.
A desperate plea.
Oh wow, people are
Yeah.
surrendering animals, and they're saying, "Hey, we'll just give you free food." Maybe that's what
Yeah.
maybe some of these shelters should be doing. They should be warehousing
That's
food for animals instead of warehousing animals.
That's what we did at shelters where I worked. We had this big pet pantry and we gave people food, providing services, vaccination so they don't get sick with parvo and, all these diseases, leptospirosis, and they spay neuter them so they don't get pyometra that's going to cost them $12,000 to fix. So that their male dog doesn't go out and get hit by a car and then require $10,000 of an emergency surgeries. Like this, we just need the preventative stuff. Give them flea prevention so that they don't have to go to the vet and spend $300 to treat their dog's new skin infection from the fleas and all of this stuff.
Yeah, or just be a nuisance for the home. Like, I mean, dogs get fleas and then your whole house has fleas. And then before they know it, they're surrendering the animal because they're just, we can't handle this. It's too much. Now I got to fumigate my home. I had to say, when everybody, do you remember during COVID and all the shelters emptied, they had no animals because everyone was adopting, and man, people weren't fixing their animals. I remember I knew people who were, all of a sudden they had a little baby dog and they put diapers on. I remember this one, she had diapers on her, human baby diapers, because she was in heat. And I'm like, well, fix the dog. Oh, she's never out of our sight.
Yeah, she's going to get a pyometra. She's going to get mammary cancer. And then they're going to have to pay for that. And
also, she's never out of our sight is the famous last words of every person who's ever had a dog who's been pregnant. Like, well, I have no idea how this happened. Must have been the neighbor's dog snuck in when I wasn't looking. But I always saw this coming. I knew these jerks that were emptying the shelters, that they were going to have this animal control problem. We're going to have an animal population problem. And I'm not saying this is that, but man, I think this is that. Now all of a sudden the animals it's like if the pendulum is swinging hard the other way because everyone thought it'd be cute to have a dog all of a sudden.
I know. And what's the AVMA doing about this?
What is the AVMA doing about it?
They started their commercial. We're promoting commercial breeding because adopt, don't shop. It's for everybody. See our last episode. Like at the same time that our shelters are exploding, they need to at least give equal time and publicity to adopt, don't shop. Like right now, our shelters are overflowing. Support your local shelter vet, adopt, foster, all of the things.
Got a good question for you, doctor. For members of the public, what's the best way to support access to care efforts? Spay, neuter, pet food pantries, access to preventative care in my community.
Yeah. Volunteer, donate, foster, donate pet food, like reach out to your local pet store and say, like, do you have any extra food that's like old or expired? Donate that to your shelter or whatever, or open bags. Like one thing is Pet Food Express, people could try a food and then if their dog didn't like it, they could return it. So it's like opened, and then they would give that to the shelter. And so we could use that. So all those things, just volunteering at your local shelter too, and encourage your local vet to quit their job working for GP and go work at a shelter instead. That's helpful. Or your local RVT who's getting burnt out working in general practice and emergency being berated by the general public who yelling at them because the cost of care is too high and they're having to euthanize animals because for curable things. Say like, hey, work in the shelter and actually let's prevent this problem instead of, working for a big VCA or whatever.
I think that's really important, right? Like get people to understand that there's a different career path for vets. I mean, since meeting you, I've learned so much about that you don't have to wallow away in a place that's super high stress. You could actually help animals directly in need, like at the shelter. But are these shelters so underfunded, or is it because they haven't talked about money? They're just saying that we're overflowing and we don't have the space.
Yeah, I think some municipal shelters are underfunded, but there's also, it shouldn't be cage-based system. And I think there needs to be a real allocation of resources, but sadly, there are some big nonprofits that they do good ads and people donate to those, but you need to look at their 990s. And I used to work for a nonprofit that was a private shelter, and I ended up leaving soon after I looked at their 990s, and I was, wanted them to pay the RVTs more, I wanted to do more spay neuter, and they're like, no, things are fine the way they are, and blah blah blah. And then I looked at their 990s and saw what the executives were making and how much money they had, and I'm like, we could be helping so many more animals. And I ended up helping more animals working for other organizations. So, no, don't just donate willy-nilly to your local shelter. Look at their 990s and see how much money they have, and ask them, how many animals are you adopting out, how many animals are you spaying and neutering, and then do the math and see, like, hey, this operation's bringing in $5 million a year, but they're only spaying and neutering 20 animals a week. What is the deal? Yeah.
What about, maybe this is a little higher grade of activism, and I want to know how you feel about, like, in West Hollywood, where people went to City Hall, and during the open session where people are allowed to speak to City Hall, they talked about, we need to fund spay and neuter programs, public spay and neuter programs, so people can take in these animals and spay and neuter them for free, because it's actually far less expensive than dealing with the population problem after the case. People aren't fixing their dogs and cats because they don't like the expense, and they, like I just said, they think that their animals, they're never out of my sight, it's not a problem. And then all of a sudden you've got all these other issues. What about something like that? Maybe we should be doing that in every city in America, every municipality with a shelter.
I think that's, LA, Los Angeles, we have this voucher program. And so I work for one nonprofit where they do take the vouchers, but the vouchers aren't very much, unfortunately. And maybe I think this city should pay more for vouchers. So maybe more offices would take them, but it's like $70 for, I forget what the thing is, but it doesn't really cover the cost of spay neuter. And so most clinics don't take them because it doesn't make sense. And then this one place I work for, they charge extra for things like e-collars and stuff. And I'd rather that not be an extra charge. I'd rather it just
Okay, but that's perfection. I mean, it seems like we're off to a good start with this voucher thing. We can help it as it goes. I mean, when there's a program like that in existence, it's easier to fix it than it is to start it from scratch, right? I mean, maybe we need people in LA talking about those, but there's probably somebody in town in New Hampshire or something that they just need to get the ball rolling. They need to start writing their city council and talking about these things.
Yeah, I absolutely. And, we have to get on, the people we met at Bay Area Cats in San Jose who were talking about their programs and stuff. They had some great stuff. Whatever happened to that? We need to organize
follow up with
that and get them on. But
yeah, for sure.
we need to look at the different cities and counties throughout the United States and their different programs, because different counties have different programs and some of them are great. Miami is one where they actually pay people to go trap cats, and they'll pay you like $15 to trap a cat and bring the cat into a clinic to be spayed or neutered, and then they pay the clinic a ton of money too. So worthwhile rather than building multi-million-dollar facilities. I was talking to a former vet from Los Angeles County Animal Services, and she's like, I used to be the only vet. We had a great team, and we took in X number of animals per year, and we didn't have these other facilities that LA County now has, and we were doing a much better job managing the population than they are doing now. And I think we need to look at best practices, and if a city is failing, let's look at what other cities are doing and make it better and train staff more. This is the most heartbreaking thing that I'm seeing, is the decline in animal handling and husbandry skills that is going down. The average pet owner doesn't know how to train or handle their animals, but now veterinary staff, I'm seeing RVTs aren't doing as good of a job as they used to. They're just not passionate about being highly skilled at this job, because it is sort of a low wage job now, and we're not paying them well enough for what they're doing. And it should be a career that you're proud of. You're an RVT, you should be proud of it, and you should be proud of your skills. But it seems like people don't care about their skills. They don't care about being able to place a catheter really well or handle an aggressive dog really well.
Well, if no one's valuing them or giving
Yeah.
them encouragement, what do you expect? I mean, this is the world we're living in. Everyone is, heaps of shit are raining down on everybody, but no one's given any kind of encouragement for anything in life. And it's
Yeah.
maybe they're, maybe like we talked about before, when you're a kid and you're not getting the people don't raise their kids the right way.
So in your world, would we be harder on kids to get them used to this brutal world, or what would we do? Or be nicer to kids so that they grow up, provide kids with the knowledge, education, and emotional support they need so they can grow into healthy individuals who can create a better, kinder world for others?
I want them to well, I don't want them to just be receivers of goodwill. I want them to also be givers of that. And I think that a lot of kids are raised to be consumers. And so I think a lot of children are raised for the first 18 years of their lives. They never contribute anything and they're just consuming. And maybe they do get heaped compliments on. I think children are actually treated quite well. I think they're usually, oh, what does little Johnny want to do today? I mean, I never got asked that when I was a kid. What do you want to get in the car? No, I was told get in the car, And so I think they're mollycoddled more than ever, but nothing is expected the other way. And I think that is what we should be teaching kids, is also how to be gracious to others and to respect other individuals and to respect animals and not harm them. When you teach a kid not to harm a caterpillar, it helps the child as much as it helps the caterpillar. Isn't that how the quote goes? That's what I'm saying when I talk about these things. I want people, and because I see it in the workplace throughout my life, that people are really quick to criticize and tell you what you're doing wrong, but no one will tell you what you're doing right. So when I was a manager, I was always like, hey, great work on that. Great work on that. I would always say please to people. I would like overdo it. In fact, when I was a manager, I would call everyone by their last name. And because in Germany, they were like, that's how we show respect at work. And when we're not at work, we use first names.
That's weird, because one of my jobs, they'd call me Heath, and I thought it was so rude.
Really?
And I'm like, what am I, a football player? Like,
well, yeah, that's like a team member thing, probably a sports thing. I would usually call you Dr. Heath or Miss Heath or something like that. If I was dealing with a cocktail server, it says like, if you were a cocktail server, you'd have a name tag that said Crystal on it. And I wouldn't take the time to learn your last name that other people have not. And I would call you Miss Heath. And people, because I've just felt like that was an added level of respect I could give. People would ask me, why do you use people's last names all the time? And I would tell them, because I'm trying to show you respect at the workplace. It's okay. We can use first names when we're talking friendly, but when we're in the course of business and I need to talk fast, I'd rather use your last name so you know that I'm trying to speak to you with some respect. And in Germany, they do that. And it's just something that kind of stuck with me. And it worked. People like 99.9% of the time, everyone loved it. Every once in a while, you get that guy that's like, "That's my dad's name. Don't call me that." And that's okay. I don't have to do it, but it worked a lot. And I think that if we could teach kids and leaders to do that, think about all the time we talk about all these cult leaders in the movement. How much benefit would there be if they had taken leadership classes and learned how to respect the individuals and learned how
that's the thing. I feel that in my experience with the cult leader types,
they take manipulation classes.
Yeah, the leadership quite well they utilize the love bombing and the flattery and the all of that stuff. And then,
but it's all from an insincere place. It's not love bombing. Like, I didn't love bomb my employees. I would be like, nice work on that. Let's keep up the pace. Like, I would cheer them on as we were working, and that gets people out of bed. It gets them to show up on time. It gets them going. When we were slammed, man, in Las Vegas, when we had people out like 6 deep at the bars, busiest bar in America that night, like Mayweather's fighting or something. And it's hard, man. People are so rude and everyone's upset because no one's getting drinks fast enough. It's just like you're taking money, you're pushing drinks across the bar, and it's just and it's filthy because no one has time to clean. So you're working in like just the worst environment. It's loud.
Yeah.
And And if you're a manager and you're like, all right, guys, come on, what do you need from me? Show me, and I would be like, what do you need from me? How do I do, you know what I mean? And I think that if we teach kids stuff like that, how to be a servant leader, then
they'll be good cogs in the wheel for capitalism to sell more beers at the MGM, right?
I hope actually. It's funny you say that, because I knew you were going to say something like that.
No.
I think it makes us better revolutionaries too. But these are all union employees, and this is what's really funny. When I took that job that I'm describing, because I didn't have that job when I started, and when I took that job, they were like, "Oh man, you're gonna hate these union employees. You're gonna hate this guy. You're gonna hate that guy. They're never gonna do what you say. They're always gonna fight you." And they didn't, not at all. And everyone who had ever had that job before me was just like, they just couldn't take it. They hated it. The only reason I left was because the bosses up top didn't want to pay. But I felt that a lot of times the reason why I was successful is because I protected them from those I protected my staff from the people up top, and they helped protect me from the overwhelming mass of all of these guests. Because when you're a manager, you're always dealing with the worst guest. Everyone who has a problem wants to talk to the manager. So you're always talking to people that just can't, they're just all problems all day. And if you have a good staff, they're keeping those people, they're solving those problems for you. And I'm trying to keep the VPs and all those assholes out of letting these guys do their job and let them work. And it works. Stick up for people. To me, that was like an act of resistance more than anything, than just a cog in the wheel. But you're right. We were far more profitable because of it too. But that's a whole, they set goals and stuff because of that shit.
Yeah.
But
also, like, people should do work that intrinsically motivates. Like, if you're in a job where you feel like you need external validation from your boss or your coworkers in order to show up, maybe you shouldn't be doing that job. Maybe you should be doing a job where you're like doing something where you're like, yes, I got that done. And like, you don't need anybody telling you did a good job.
That's
You're
hard
like,
when the money's good. When the money's good, you need that more. I don't know. When the money's good, it's hard to quit. Like, these guys aren't quitting, and they have no other prospects outside of this, because they make a shitload of money doing what they're doing, and they have no other skills. What else are they gonna do?
Yeah,
they're gonna it's a craft job. It is a craftsman's job, but it's also kind of a dead end. Like, there's no place up from that bar. There's no bar where they're going to make more money, because it's one of the busiest bars in America. There's no place else to go. And so they're going to retire. They're going to be 65 before they leave that cash register and that piece of rubber they're standing on. So what motivates them if not the team and seeing their friends at work and
in
having
that sort of
something?
job? But like in
most
I
jobs,
would just
though,
like
isn't it?
in general, like as if you're considering pursuing a job, do a job that brings you some satisfaction, that you've like accomplished something at the end of the day, like you've moved the needle forward, you've honed your craft. We all have like some sort of craft that we're honing. We all have like some goal that we're accomplishing, and then we want to get done. Like, do a job that we're like, the inherent act of doing that job is enough for you.
You're so right. You're so right, except that sometimes people forget the love that they had for my guys. They've been through the union classes and everything, and they had forgotten how much they loved being bartenders and making up drinks, because the corporation would never let them do it. When I took over, I was like, you guys are going to make the menu. You're going to make up these drinks. We're going to put them on the menu. I'm going to get it done. And we did. And all of a sudden, guess what? Signature cocktail sales went through the roof, because they were selling their own drinks all of a sudden. Now, all of a sudden, they loved their jobs again. They were thinking about, oh, what do you think about this, Sky? What do you think about, oh, I'm working on this new drink all of a sudden. And they got into it. They refound their love that you're talking about, because someone was there to champion them. It's not just love bombing or just blind encouragement. It's encouraging them to find their passion again. It's just like, I'm working with a writer's coach right now for my vegan book. And I tell you what, I've had my second meeting with her, and that morning I was like, I woke up early. I was like, I better make sure I have my shit. And I'm happier to write that shit. I'm happier to do it. I love writing. But when you have someone that's like, hey, that's good. Maybe put more of this. I love that. Oh, maybe put this over on this side. Oh, I love what you did here. That type of like, she's not just blowing smoke up my ass and being like, what a wonderful writer you are. I love you, Skyjack Morgan. You're so beautiful. And one, she doesn't talk like that to me. She says, this is a little rough, but this is really good. And it helps me find my groove with writing again. And I'm more happy to do it. You know, I'm excited about it again, you know, and that's.
So now I know how to manipulate Sky is the key here.
It's not hard. It's not hard. I've just given everybody. I think it's not manipulation. I think it's positive team building. Put it that way. It's team building. And you're right. It could get culty, but it doesn't. Sometimes a little cultiness might be okay, I guess. As long as you don't have gurus, I think you're all right, you know. And
as long as the key is the ostracization of cults, like the high exit costs, the idea that they will defame you to the rest of the movement and prevent you from getting funding and speaking engagements, and make sure everybody is suspicious of you. That's the problem in the animal rights movement.
But isn't that usually a result of speaking up against whoever the guru is? Because you know what's funny? So damn, it's just reminding me of something. So when I first took over that bar, I do what a lot of people did. I wanted to change the music, and I did. I changed the music, and the staff was upset about it. And I was like, you got to give it a chance. They're like, we hate it. We don't want this music. You fucked up. And I'm like, damn it, just stick with me a little bit. And you know what? They went above my head and like complained. And I felt so hurt. Like they were criticizing what I was doing. I felt hurt. I hurt my feelings. But you know what? I didn't take it like, fuck that guy. I'm going to retaliate against that guy. I went to them. I'm like, what should we do? What kind of music? And it turned out I already had a better idea, and we got buy-in, and we worked together on making a playlist, and it worked out great. And then guess what? If they complain about the music, you guys have just as much to blame as me. And guess what? They loved it all of a sudden. They did still complain, but no one ever went over my head again. No one ever tried to. I guess my point is, as a leader, you can't just tear people down or retaliate against them because they did something that maybe you didn't like. And I think that's that exit shit. That's what you're usually paying, right? That high cost of exit's usually because you said something about the wrong guy.
Yeah,
it's usually a man.
Or you went to HR or the reports team, and you just said, you foolishly, naively went to the reports team or HR and said like, hey, like this, he's breaking the code of conduct here. And then they go like, we can't have people speaking out against the person who follows the rules too closely. Yeah, this is bad.
That's so funny. I had so many people go to HR for different reasons, or go to the union for different reasons. And we all sat down and hashed it out, and I always had an open mind, and if I fucked up, I apologized, and everything always worked out. I don't know. It's always like, I don't know why people get upset.
Yeah, nobody got their defense funding pulled. Nobody got.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That never happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never tried to retaliate against them, because what would be the point? I got other stuff to do, you know. I got better stuff to fish, bigger fish to free.
Some people take that war Shadrach thing too seriously, and they're like, my reputation is so important, I can't even have people internally voice concerns about my behavior, so I'm going to do a live stream and talk about these women who are voicing concerns about my behavior, and bring all my exes and say like, my exes think I'm great. These women, this one woman actually in particular, that's the one.
It's her fault.
Her. Yeah,
you know,
she's just jealous, resentful.
I hate these gurus like that. I hate it. You know, these cult leaders. You know who I saw? You know that guy who they call Mr. Wonderful? His name is he's a multimillionaire, billionaire type, and he's on Shark Tank, and he's kind of famously a jerk, and he's always on CNN panels and stuff. People call him Mr. Wonderful. And I saw this clip of him talking about when he used to work for Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs was such a jerk to him, and he was just describing it as a good thing. And it's like, no, Steve Jobs was abusing you, man. It's really, really bad what this story said, what you're saying. And then you realize O'Leary, Kevin O'Leary, yeah, that's his name, O'Leary. Yeah, O'Leary's talking about Steve Jobs, and it's like, maybe this is why O'Leary's such a douchebag, is because he was abused by Steve Jobs, and now he's just perpetuating that. You're creating bad people.
But people say like Apple is, was the best company in the world when Steve Jobs was in charge. They created the most innovative stuff. So like that's what many of these leaders think you have to be if you want to innovate, and if you want to change the world. You have to embody Steve Jobs and his reality distortion field and his gaslighting, and create this cult of personality around you if you want to get minions who are going to be your army. But
they're wrong. They're wrong, and I'll tell you why they're wrong. Steve Jobs was an innovator. He was an incredible innovator, but look what he did. He lost his company. Think about how much he would have accomplished if, first of all, he hadn't lost his company the first time. He got kicked out of his company because he's was an asshole. And then he died because he was an asshole. He died because he was a jerk.
He thought he knew more than the doctors about his pancreatic cancer. He died of a curable cancer. Yeah.
Yes, died of a very curable cancer. And no, but he had to be a jerk, lost his company. Think of all the lost opportunity there. Where would we be now? We might be in flying car. We might have an iCar right now. Then he died early because of his personality traits that no one ever tempered that. So yeah, I guess you could say the same thing about a lot of these guys. Howard Hughes, where would he have been if he wasn't a nut job? Personality.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Like, I mean, these guys who are operating at that level, I think, Steve Jobs was a little bit of a mad genius, I think, but he was more of an asshole than a genius. And he got some stuff done.
Thankfully, he teamed up with Steve Wozniak.
I think, yes.
I am the Steve Wozniak of the animal rights movement.
I'm the John Brown.
Who's John Brown?
He was the slave. He fought. He killed slave owners to free the slaves, to get the abolition movement kick-started before the Civil War. But it's just a joke that I say sometimes. I'm the John Brown of veganism. But of course, I do not preach violence. I'm not. It's just a joke, everybody. Most people don't know who John Brown is. So anyway, Crystal, this was a fun last hour. I really like batting at the fences with you and talking about this deeper stuff in the movement. Maybe we should always do this the last hour. The third hour should always be like this.
I get annoyed because I'm like, we have important information we need to get out to the public. So I'm like this is the stuff we need to get to. And then when we get to these rambling fests, I'm always slightly annoyed by them, but I know you like it. So
I think
every now and then there's some pearls that come out of it, but you never know. It depends on my mood.
Consider could be both. It could be we do both. Like this show, we did the hardcore facts hour, and then we did the great interview. I think you and I did okay with that. I think Maddie did a great job, and then the third hour was talking about animals in shelters and the vegan movement. I think animal rights movement. I think it's fine. People tune in for that too. Got to give the people what they want, Crystal.
Is that what the people want? Tell me what the people want. Too bad. I'm gonna see if I got an email back from Krista. Oh, she's messaging me on too many different platforms. She's in an emergency and couldn't make it. We can reschedule. Like we'll meet Krista some other time. She's great.
Is she Magnifico?
We have to ask her about her last name. She's like
she is Magnifico.
DeCoriolis. Maybe she's got some sort of origin story related like that. Like
Andrew's is actually related to DeCoriolis. So I think it's pretty cool. The real DeCoriolis, after whom it was named. So I like it. See, I like the rambling hour, and it wasn't rambling. We stayed on topic. We didn't get too far off. We talked about all sorts of cool stuff. We talked about movement stuff, and some people are into that. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want to hear before we go my very
Yes.
strange dream that I had? Every now and then I'll have a dream that's I
And
know
I'm the one. Yes,
nobody
tell me about your dream.
cares since we just go to the 6 o'clock. Nobody cares about people's dreams. I know. And so I know that many people are going to be like bored by this, but I had a dream last night that I was in a meeting and I was trying to be taken seriously. And while I was trying to figure out how I was going to say what I wanted to say, thousands of rats came out of my clothes. And like I was wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants, and imagine them being stuffed full of live rats that were coming out. And I was like, and people were like rolling their eyes at me. And I'm like, people aren't going to
Because
take
they
me
can't take you
seriously
seriously.
because I have these
Rats in
rats
your clothes.
that are coming out of my clothes. And like, I'm trying to get them out, like thousands. And every time I think I was empty, they would keep filling up again with more rats. So that was my dream. And
You're the rat queen.
I don't know what it means.
I don't know.
but-
I don't know that dreams mean things, but I think they're cool. And
Well, it was like that emotion of like, I'm trying to be taken seriously here. And also afterwards thinking, why are people so just dismissive of me when I
these
clearly
rats.
have this very interesting problem that they shouldn't just be rolling their eyes at, which is a metaphor for a lot of my life. It's like, you're rolling your eyes at me, but I have this very interesting problem. I don't have Riz. I have
a rare disease.
big brown eyes and very, very disturbing things to say.
Yes.
And nobody's paying attention.
Maybe you're worrying about being taken seriously. Maybe you
Exactly.
already are. Maybe
And I'm pissed at people who aren't
worried
asking the
too
deeper
much.
questions of like, why does she keep having thousands of rats coming out of her clothes? Isn't that more interesting than just like rolling your eyes and being mad at me because I'm not being professional?
Yeah.
As thousands of rats come out of my clothes.
Yeah. Don't you see that I'm a special one here? It's funny. My professor in college, I remember him telling me he was going to talk about Christopher Marlowe in Harvard. He was traveling, and I was helping him prepare. I was his research assistant, helping him prepare for the trip. And I thought, like, it seems like you're really over preparing for this. Like you've been doing this for 50 years. How is it like? And he says to me, no matter how many times I do this, I still feel like a phony. That never goes away. And I thought, okay, and now every time I feel that imposter syndrome, because that's really what it is, right? Wanting to be taken seriously and not being taken seriously. I just remember everybody feels so, like the people that I've always the people that I think are those gurus, those cult leaders, they never feel that way. It's the ones that I actually respect that always feel that way, that are afraid of not being taken seriously and feel maybe I shouldn't be as confident as I am. I know my shit, but maybe I don't. Maybe I know nothing. Those are the best people.
Yeah. No, and we always got to work on our craft and get better and stuff. So,
yeah,
good for the people who aren't like, yeah, I think very highly of myself and I know I'm better than everybody else. The people who are like constantly grinding and trying to get better and realizing like it's not about being better than anybody. It's just about like knowing your stuff well and getting better at your craft and whatever. So
it's true.
yeah.
It's true. This one just caught my all caps. Trump stated on the Howard Stern show that his only limit is 12. I remember that. Yeah, he said 12-year-olds. It's pretty gross.
Oh,
Howard
really?
Stern has now been canceled. Oh yeah,
Wow.
Robin actually asked him. She said he's like, Howard Stern was being gross like he always was in the 90s, and he says like, oh, you could still get all those women, like you could still. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, I would have no problem. Good thing I'm married. I would have no problem. I would have no problem getting all these women if I wanted them. I can have anybody I want. And Robin says, well, do you have an age limit? And I think Robin actually meant on the high end. I think that's what she was asking. But he said, well, I don't want to be like 12.
Wow.
I don't
What
wanna
year
get
was this?
late 90s.
Yeah, in the
mid-90s.
90s, it was still cool to rape children.
Well, No, I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
It's never been cool.
back
12
in
is
the
my
90,
limit.
this is the first I've heard of this. So, and
Really?
I
No, it's been making the rounds again. I remember when it happened, and I
wow,
remember because it was a thing back then. Even
wow,
did he just say 12? Like people were making jokes about it, and now it's out. It's resurfaced. People are talking
wow.
about it again, and you could, Google. It's here. I mean, you want me to play it for you? I mean, it's
No,
like,
I don't. No, this is
okay.
not the show for that.
No, it isn't. But hey, no, sorry. Someone put it on the chat. I was just
But
reading the
yeah,
chat.
no.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for All Beings Considered. My name's Skyjack Morgan. Over there, that's Dr. Crystal Heath, DVM. We do this every Wednesday for 3 hours. Hopefully, you'll have some good guests for you next week. We're not really sure who yet, but don't forget, we do FOIA Friday at 4, where we try to exercise our rights for the freedom of information and try to uncover some corruption in the food systems in general. And
Yeah.
and
We've got
corporations
Ben
in particular.
Williamson on next week from Animal Outlook talking about his recent investigations that made the news of foie gras and stuff like that. And hopefully Krista Magnifico. We'll see if she is
On
able to
ABC
join us.
on this show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We got some great guests lined up for you then. And we'll see you on the other
please do
side.
donate if you want to keep supporting the program. ouronor.org/donate or Venmo at ouronor to help us out and help us keep going, because the animal rights movement donors maybe don't like us very much for various reasons.
Yeah, please do. Go to ouronor.org/donate and leave a penny, please, or a pound, because we're running on a shoestring budget making this happen. And if you like what we're doing,
some say that my press attention and the way that I've discredited the industry has been worth millions of dollars. So I think if you want to keep that going, help us out.
Indeed. And how, for sure. And we'll see you on Friday for FOIA Friday at 4. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, FOIA Friday.
You're amazing. Friday 44, FOIA Friday at 4. See you then. Bye. Bye, Crystal. Don't forget to subscribe to Our Honor, please, on Instagram and on YouTube. We do a great Instagram, by the way. Follow Our Honor Vets on Instagram.